The man holding a sword to her throat was the man she had given her whole heart to. In the great hall of the Imperial Palace, Seth Floss leveled his blade at Manny Frey's face. Nothing was left in his eyes, not one trace of what they had been. Manny Frey, I honored your talent the way I honored you, and you broke the law of this empire, practicing forbidden song magic in the dark. Blood streaked the marble. Dark grimoires lay scattered where someone had thrown them. Manny knelt on the stone, choking so hard she could not force out a single word. Inside, she was screaming, "Your Majesty, I did not do it, Seth Floss." But her throat would not make a sound. So even at the very end, you refused to say one word to me. Golden royal power surged, blinding along the blade, and the last of her hope went out. He truly meant to end her. Watching the sword fall, Manny wondered how a life could come to this. But the story begins long before this moment. She had been born a daughter of House Frey, one of the wealthiest houses in the empire. She had her mother's striking beauty, and behind all that gilding, a childhood spent in tears. You used magic in front of everyone again, didn't you? You stupid girl. Everything I built for this family is about to burn because of you. From today, you live like a dead thing. You do nothing at all. One slap from her own mother killed every want she had. To House Frey, her gift for magic was only a tool for climbing higher. In that enormous house, not one small corner had ever belonged to her. Feeling useless and caged, she found herself pitying a witch in an old story. The witch Jekyllden hated all of mankind, so she hunted a demon beast for its power, meaning to burn a kingdom down. And in the end, the hero struck her dead, the way villains in legends always die. But what if that wicked witch had someone who loved her too? What if she never wanted a kingdom at all, only one small ordinary happiness? Please keep those words to yourself, my lady. If Madam hears them, we are all finished. She thought her whole life would pass like that, in the shadows, unwanted. Until the day her family forced her to attend a royal ball. In the place she expected to hate most, she met Seth Floss. He arrived like a shaft of light, took her waist in the dance, and made her a sweet promise. I will stay beside you always. And yet, when the crown was set on his head, he kept that promise by walking into the cathedral holding another woman's hand. Manny stood in a dark corner and watched the man she loved put a ring on a highborn princess. Then fate pushed her into a corner. She discovered she was carrying his child. You are carrying my blood? Manny looked up at the man on the throne. She was foolish enough to wonder whether he had been quietly watching over her all along. His next words went through her like ice water. Your mother came to me herself and told me. So it had been her mother. She had run to tell him not out of love, but to use the child in her belly as leverage for the family. The blonde empress leaned into Seth Floss's shoulder and smiled the falsest smile in the world. Your Majesty, why not grant her a favor? For the sake of the royal child she is about to bear, Seth Floss turned his cold eyes on Manny and poured salt into the wound. As a favor on this happy day, I permit you and that child to live in the outer palace. A favor. From the man she had loved more than herself. Her child was not a blessing anyone welcomed, only something he permitted. Manny had believed in Seth Floss. She had believed the two of them could weather anything together. The more you hope, the deeper the fall. The day she bore her daughter Liriana alone in that cold outer palace, the small creature in her arms became her only reason to keep breathing. But fate was never done with Manny. Now she lay collapsed on a magic circle, blood spreading from the wound Seth Floss's sword had made. Her daughter's face rose in her mind. A gentle child who once wept over a trampled wildflower, who prayed for the girl who bullied her. If she died, what would the Emperor do with a child like that? A bastard daughter, branded the child of a witch, could not survive that palace alone. Manny cursed herself through her tears. If only she had been more careful with that empress. But regret was too late now. I cannot die like this. I have to live for Liriana. Take everything else from me, but let me start over. Grief and hatred drained the last strength from her body. Then light exploded out of the circle beneath her. A vast white dragon stepped out of nothing, and the weight of a legend filled the room. You wear a very wretched face. Do you still wish to live, human? Manny stared at the creature out of myth. She did not know if it was a god or a devil, but looking into those ancient eyes, she seized her last scrap of hope. I do not care which you are, help me. Help me live long enough to protect Liriana. The beast studied the ruined woman, and magic flickered in its eyes. The contract is struck, woman of the fading light. Light tore through space. Somewhere between life and death, Manny heard a small voice calling her. Liriana stood far off, smiling. "Mother, come look at what I have." Liriana held out her hands, and both of them were dripping with fresh blood. Manny woke with a jolt and found herself lying on a soft, expensive bed. Where is this? What is happening? Am I dreaming? I should be dead. Then she raised a hand and froze. Wait. Why is my hand this small? Have I gone back in time? She scrambled up and ran on unsteady legs toward the tall mirror behind a red curtain. But this room, wasn't this the outer palace? No, it could not be. Manny tore the curtain aside with everything she had, and when she saw the reflection, she went completely still. What a cruel joke this was. Manny Frey had not gone back in time at all. She had been reborn inside the body of her own daughter. Silky black hair and clear emerald eyes stared back at her from the glass. It was her own face as a child. No, it was the face of the girl who looked exactly like her, Liriana. Manny staggered backward on legs that would not hold her. Is this a dream? Coming back inside my daughter's body makes no sense at all. And where is Liriana? What happened to my own body? Her last memory ended at the blade Seth Floss drove through her, and then that strange meeting in the dark. The beast had violet eyes, terribly alive. Thinking of it, Manny glanced up and nearly jumped out of her skin. On top of the wardrobe sat a small white dragon with brilliant violet eyes staring straight at her. Manny fell back. What is this? You are the beast from before. Seeing it was recognized, the little dragon yawned, spread its wings, and shot straight out of the room. Manny scrambled after it. Stop right there. Tell me what you have done to me. A few steps down the hall she had to stop, one hand on the wall, gasping. This body was heavy and exhausted after almost nothing. Liriana had been frail since birth. The poor child had spent long months bedridden. Manny remembered nursing her, promising that once she was well, the two of them would do everything she wanted. Liriana had only smiled that soft smile, squeezed her hand, and said, I do not need anything else. I only need you, Mother. The memory closed Manny's throat. She asked herself the bitter question, is Liriana's soul still sleeping somewhere inside this body? Does my daughter still exist? The little dragon had vanished without a trace. Only then did Manny notice how wrong the place around her felt. The outer palace had been grand once. Now it was derelict, dim, and cold enough to frighten her. This dress is thin as a rag. How is a body this weak supposed to survive here? She would catch a fever at this rate. Manny walked the empty corridor. What had happened here while she was gone? Lost in thought, she walked straight into something hard. She looked up, wincing. Two royal guards in full armor looked down at the small thing at their feet with open contempt. Where did this brat crawl out of? That's the one from the end of the second floor. The child His Majesty threw away? The witch's daughter. That word again. Witch. Someone in this palace had worked very hard to make it stick, and Manny intended to find out who. A guard shoved her down with the butt of his spear, and her small body sprawled on the freezing floor. Careful. She is still His Majesty's blood. Never mind. Grab her first. He seized Liriana's thin arm. Manny could not breathe for rage. Exactly what she had feared. Because of the black magic they pinned on her, her daughter had swallowed a year of this. Fury broke out of her. Let go. Do not put those filthy hands on Liriana's body. And in that instant, the little dragon dropped from the rafters. It opened its tiny mouth, drew a deep breath, and a fireball roared into both guards. Flame licked up their cloaks and sent them shrieking across the corridor. Manny had not finished processing any of it before the dragon flapped away again. Wait, divine beast. I am not letting you get away this time. She ran after it, wheezing all the way out to the wide grounds. And then she stopped cold. The North Tower. This was the Imperial Palace. While she searched the garden for the dragon, she passed straight through the line of sight of a high-born blonde boy. He stared after the small, thin girl sprinting past him. Down a narrow garden path, Manny finally found the dragon lounging beside a fountain. She could barely speak for lack of air. Divine beast. I only want to ask you a few things. I will stand right here. Please stop running. The dragon looked at her, huffed once, then lunged and butted her. Manny lost her footing and went straight into the fountain basin. She came up soaked, hair plastered to her face, dripping like a drowned rat. She almost wept. What exactly am I doing with my life? And then she caught a glint of something at the bottom of the water. Manny fished it out and went still. This was the mana stone necklace that had belonged to her. She looked up at the dragon, which blinked back at her. Had this creature led her here on purpose to give the necklace back? But why would it? The little dragon drifted down, pushed its round head into her shoulder, and nuzzled her. Manny gathered the small warm body against her, half exasperated, half moved. Who are you, really? I thought you were running away, and here you are falling asleep in my arms. Looking at the creature dozing against her, she had to laugh. This tiny thing was the vast white dragon from her memory. With its help, she had the mana stone necklace back. The stone made mana easier to control, and it might let her use magic even in Liriana's fragile body. But not yet. The guards already called her the witch's daughter. Using magic now could destroy what was left of Liriana's life. Manny hid the necklace in her dress and carried the dragon back inside. Liriana. A clear voice behind her nearly stopped her heart. She turned and found a handsome blonde boy stepping out from behind a tree. Manny knew him at once. This was Dagon Gondif, heir to the Duke of Gondif. He often came to the palace with his father, so even from the outer palace she had seen him a few times. But since when did Dagon and Liriana know each other? Dagon came closer, pointing. What is that, the thing you're holding? Manny lifted the dragon over her head, trying to hide it. This is... But the boy's eyes were already blazing. Incredible. Are you keeping a fairy dragon, Liriana? With him lit up like that, Manny simply nodded. I suppose so. They say fairy dragons only live on the far continent. I never thought I would see one. How did you catch it? Mid-sentence, he finally noticed the thin dress clinging to her, water running off the hem. He pulled off his expensive coat at once and settled it over her shoulders. Are you all right? How did you end up in the water? Put this on. He smiled awkwardly. Sorry, I was so busy staring at the dragon I didn't notice. Not very gallant of me. Manny laughed out loud. It's fine. Thank you. He really is a thoughtful, well-mannered boy, she thought. He is easy to be near. Dagon walked her all the way back to the outer palace gate and waved cheerfully. See you soon, Liriana. Alone in the empty room, Manny set the sleeping dragon down and sighed. Do you actually understand me? If you truly are a divine beast, can you give Liriana back to herself? A day passed, then another, and nothing changed. Getting used to the new body, Manny learned two things. She had woken exactly 1 year after her death, and she learned exactly how her daughter had been treated in that year. A maid dropped a plate of gray food and a heel of bread hard as stone on the table. Eat, I have cleaning to do. The food was inedible. The wardrobe held 4 torn dresses, none the right size. So this was the year her daughter had lived while she was gone. Manny bit the cold bread and her eyes stung. At least, she told herself, the one swallowing this now is me, and not Liriana. Dust lay so thick in the tower room that she coughed without stopping. And it was not only the room. Liriana's health had fallen badly. This is dangerous. This body was already too weak. Even unrecognized as a princess, the child should have received the bare minimum owed to an emperor's blood. But since the day she went outside, the watch had tightened until she was forbidden to leave the room. The only thing that eased it was one visitor. Dagon came faithfully. He even named the dragon Amy, for the amethyst violet of its eyes. Though the divine beast did nothing but sleep, Dagon studied it chin in hand. Aim's scales look wonderful today. What does Aim eat anyway? He reached out to pat its head. Aim opened one eye and bit him hard enough to draw blood. Manny sighed and bandaged the boy's hand. He grinned through it. Aimee listens to nobody but you, Liriana. Manny looked at the dragon in her lap and thought, it doesn't listen to me either. Dagon kept asking, I thought you were Amy's master. Then why was a fairy dragon out in the back garden alone? Manny fumbled for an answer, and Dagon happily changed course. More importantly, do you want to go outside this time? There's plenty to do. I know every guard here. Let me ask for you. His hope died the instant the maid answered. That will not be possible. Dagon's face fell. Why can't Liriana go outside? At least tell me the reason. The maid bowed her head. His Majesty is about to visit this tower. And a moment later, Seth Floss was there in the doorway. Manny's heart slammed against her ribs. Strange that this should still make her nervous. She had not expected to stand in front of Seth Floss so soon. Would he recognize her somehow? No. Impossible. But this was better. She had a few things to make clear with him. Seth Floss walked past her without a glance. Bring it inside. I do not recall permitting anyone to carry that thing outdoors." The maid bowed low, terrified. And in that moment, Manny finally understood the whole shape of it. She understood exactly who had left Liriana to rot in this freezing tower with no one at her back. A child branded the witch's daughter, not even entered in the royal register. If she gave the girl her soul back, would any of it actually improve? No. First, she would tear this rotten place down to the boards and rebuild it. Manny stepped forward, lifted the hem of her dress, and curtsied with flawless court form. "Your Majesty, Liriana of Canveria greets you with all respect." She raised her head, and her emerald eyes were hard as cut stone. She would overturn this, whatever it cost, even if she had to use the Emperor himself. So there she sat, in a sunlit pavilion, face to face with the man who had ended her life with his own hand, Seth Floss of Canveria. He had been an arrogant crown prince once, allergic to duty and bored by ceremony. Now he ruled the empire, the only man of his line who commanded the golden aura of light. And he was Liriana's father, the father of the body she now wore. The air between them was so cold that the maid bringing tea was visibly shaking, and the others whispered from a safe distance. "What is happening over there? That whole corner is terrifying." Manny's eyes went to the sword at his hip, and her stomach turned over. It was the blade that had gone through her chest 1 year ago, and it would be drawn again before this was finished. Seth Floss sipped his tea and spoke without interest. "I thought something here might have changed, but the view is the same as it always was." "How dull. Dull, wouldn't you agree?" Watching him say it, something hot rose in Manny's chest. Dull. That is all he has to say to his small daughter after a year apart. Even if he never noticed the frayed cuffs of her sleeves, even if he never learned that nobody in this place listens to a child, Liriana was still his daughter. He could at least ask how she had been living. Then Manny mocked herself. "How stupid I am, that after everything I still cannot throw away that thin last hope in this man." She swallowed the bitterness, stood, straightened her spine, and looked directly into his burning red eyes. "Your Majesty is quite right, which is exactly why this tower has to change. Every part of it." Seth Floss's lips moved, and something like curiosity crossed his face. "Is that so? This tower, which looks ready to collapse at any hour?" Manny answered smoothly. "And yet your Majesty came here of your own accord. You are a man who never spends a moment on anything without value, just as you once decided about my mother." His hand stopped on the table. The faint smile went out and his face darkened. "What did you just say?" To Seth Floss, Liriana was a worthless pebble found in a pocket, discarded whenever he liked. Bitter as that was, it also steadied her, because she knew exactly what could catch this man's attention. An attendant stepped up. "Your Majesty, we are ready to depart." Seth Floss ignored him. He rose, crossed to Manny, and lowered himself onto one knee, bringing his eyes level with the child in front of him. "Interesting. You have not looked away from me once." The maids at the far wall stood open-mouthed at a thing no emperor had ever done. Seth Floss narrowed his eyes into her clear emerald ones. "Did somebody teach you to say those words? This is more than a resemblance to your mother's face. You speak as though that woman were living inside you." Alarm went off in Manny's head. She had gone too far. His voice dropped, and every word landed with force. "Answer me. Who dared teach you to speak like that?" Manny's face went pale. Before she could invent anything, a pair of wings beat past them. "Wait, aim." And before anyone could react, Dagon came bursting out of the hedge, carrying a large bundle. He ran straight to her, delighted. "I got it. Princess, your aim, I mean the thing you asked for." Seth Floss cut him off, ice cold. "Princess?" This child's name has never once appeared in the royal register. The whole garden went silent. And then Dagon dropped to one knee in perfect noble form. "Forgive my lateness and my discourtesy, your Majesty. Dagon of House Gondif greets the great son of Canveria. Rise." Seth Floss frowned at him. The arrival of a duke's heir set his suspicion aside for the moment. Some adult had put those words in the child's mouth, that was all. But before he turned to go, Seth Floss left one thing behind. "What you said to me is half right and half wrong. I do weigh the value of everything, but I have never discarded what I hold without a reason. On that day, it was your mother who betrayed my trust first." Manny could not believe her ears. "What? What is he talking about?" He was the one who abandoned her. He was the one who refused to hear her out. So what exactly did he mean by that day? Manny spoke up, but I did nothing at all. Seth Floss did not turn around. He walked on and left a final warning. That does not make you valuable either. If you want something, then change it with your own hands. Back in her room, Manny laughed at the sky. Change it? He wants me to prove my worth when he cannot be bothered to learn what his own daughter eats. Then she noticed the young maid in the corner. Manny recognized her, the small girl who had poured tea that morning. New to the tower by the look of her. Another maid came in with a tray and dumped hot soup over Manny's hand and dress. Here, drink. Oh dear, a little spill. You really are hopeless, my lady. Don't just stand there gaping. You should have caught it. She was already turning to leave with a smirk. Manny looked at the stain spreading across the thin fabric, and her emerald eyes went flat. Her voice came out like frost. Stop. Both maids turned. Manny sat straight-backed on the bed and spoke very quietly. What you spilled, you will pick up with your own hands, every last piece of it. She could not remake this tower in a day. But teaching the vermin inside it some manners was well within her power. What did you just say? The maid jerked as though slapped. Manny sat with her arms folded, emerald eyes cutting into her. I told you to pick up what you spilled with your hands. Are you pretending not to understand, or did your family simply never raise you? The pink-haired maid moved to intervene, frightened. Let me clean it. She was shoved aside at once. The older maid glared into Manny's face. It seems the little mistress doesn't know her own position. And who exactly was raised badly here? Watching her, Manny closed her eyes for a moment. Raised badly? It was the opposite, in fact. Her mother's face came back to her. When a trusted servant was caught stealing, her mother took a whip to him without hesitating. Kindness makes no one loyal, her mother taught her. Only the whip makes a servant obey. Make the punishment enormous and the reward tiny. That servant was thrown out, his whole family driven from the village, and after that nobody in the house ever contradicted her mother again. Remembering that lesson written in blood, Manny made herself a promise. To build Liriana a shield, she would do anything at all. She lifted her chin and spoke clearly, while both maids stared. Within 1 week, every maid in this tower will be leaving the palace. All but one. A head of household, chosen by me. The maid gaped. Hold on. By whose authority? Manny answered with the emperor's own words. His Majesty told me that if I want something changed, I should change it myself. Which is the same as handing me command of this tower. Or does His Majesty speak words that mean nothing? You are welcome to repeat that question to him yourself, the next time he visits me. At the words His Majesty, the color drained out of her face. She had nothing left to say. She turned and stalked off, muttering, Damn brat, the witch's daughter to the bone. But Manny's announcement went through the servants' quarters like a lit match. A maid named Serena saw the opening immediately. She remembered the emperor lowering himself to meet Liriana's eyes, something no one in that palace had ever seen. That very night, Serena cooked a proper meal with her own hands, carried it up hot, and played her card beautifully. I heard Anna ruined your dinner. I made this again at once. Please be merciful to her. By morning, the story had run into every corner of the tower. Did you hear? Serena used the kitchen last night in secret. Only one of us stays on as head of household, and the rest are put out of the palace? Heavens, they say His Majesty has changed his mind about her. We had better start winning Lady Liriana over, and fast. The next morning, watching the others race one another to serve Liriana, Anna swept the floor and cursed under her breath. Then she thought it over. Being pleasant cost her nothing. So Anna carried her broom straight into Liriana's room. Manny looked at her coolly. Who is responsible for cleaning this room? Oh, my lady, you're awake already. I asked you a question. Would you like to answer a different one? The maid laughed weakly. Tanya and I look after this floor. Manny blew lightly across her fingernails. Tanya has never cleaned a room by herself, so whoever supervises that child is the root of the problem. Name to her face, Anna ground her teeth and left. The ones who openly sneered at Liriana had pulled back for now, but Manny knew the quiet would not last. This tower ran like a machine, and Liriana was the only part left outside it. So who should she make head of household? Tanya was far too timid. Anna was poisonous but knew the system. Serena was quick and popular. Before she could decide, she caught sight of the tower guards lounging together, laughing and gossiping. Manny walked over and said it plainly. This is not your post. Your duty is to guard this tower, not to sit here telling jokes. Am I wrong? The two knights had no intention of taking that from a child. I can't quite hear you, my lady. What was that? Isn't it about time for your supper? Manny was still swallowing that when Dagon appeared like a rescue. Sorry I'm late, Liriana. I swore as a knight I would finish my training before leaving. He smiled warmly at her, then turned on the two guards with a look that carried real weight. My father teaches that a knight guards his oath like his own life. Is my father's lesson wrong? Both men went white and stammered apologies. With that father named, they had no choice. Dagon's father was Duke Canepa Gondif, commander of the entire royal order. Watching how Dagon treated Liriana, always the same way, warmed something in Manny. With the information Dagon quietly gathered for her, Manny made her decision. The next day, she assembled every maid in the tower to name the head of household. Standing in the line, Anna was sure of herself. She wants an easy life. If she has any sense at all, she'll pick me or Serena. Manny spoke clearly in front of all of them. She had once believed her mother's lesson was right, until the day her mother abandoned her and the whole world turned its back. On the day Liriana was born, she decided to live differently. Your next head of household is Tanya. The tower erupted. Tanya stood frozen, disbelieving, and Anna burst out furious. Impossible. That girl has never once cleaned the mistress's room. Manny answered from the step above them, perfectly calm. Get your facts straight. Tanya does not clean my room. She cleans every corridor in this tower, alone. And thanks to Dagon, I know Tanya was the only one who, while the rest of you hesitated or sneered, was frightened and poured the tea for His Majesty anyway. She is the only child here who has never looked at Liriana with contempt. Anna, did you all think you could ignore us simply because we are children? And at that, Anna lost the last of her reason. She picked up a full jug of ice water and threw it over Manny's head. She smirked. Oh, I do apologize. Time to stop playing princess, don't you think? But before that cruel little smile could fade, a tall shadow filled the doorway. Seth Floss stepped inside, cold as winter. What is happening here? His voice froze the air solid. Anna's whole body jerked and no sound came out of her. When she started to make excuses, he walked toward her. Why have you not answered me? Has your tongue been cut out? There was no blood left in Anna's face. She was close to fainting when Manny, in Liriana's body, stepped between them. Your Majesty, she belongs to me. I was teaching my people the limits of their duty and their authority. Seth Floss looked at the water dripping off her. By letting them pour ice over your head? Manny bowed her head calmly. It was a necessary lesson. Even so, I disturbed the order of this palace. The fault is mine. Anna could not follow it. What? Why is she covering for me? Then she understood. This was not protection. The little snake was taking the blame deliberately, so that Anna would have no choice but to kneel and beg the Emperor's pardon. Anna hit the ground instantly, forehead to the stone. Your Majesty, it is exactly as Lady Liriana says. Please, Your Majesty, have mercy on me. Manny's mouth curved and she turned on the rest of the staff. Now, all of you. Under the Emperor's freezing stare, every maid in the tower dropped to her knees at once and pressed her head to the grass, begging. Seth Floss rubbed his forehead, thoroughly tired of the performance. Enough. All of you, out. Liriana, go and make yourself presentable. I will inspect this tower myself. Watching him stride down the tower corridor, one could finally see the weight the young emperor carried. He was remembering his study, and Duke Gondif asking him quietly, Seth Floss, Dagon told me everything. Do you truly intend to erase Liriana from your heart entirely? I know why you put that child in the North Tower. But that place is far too harsh for a girl as small as Liriana. From the North Tower, Seth Floss could see the Emerald Palace clearly, where he had been born, where every memory of his mother lived. This North Tower, since the time of his ancestors, had held the criminals who could not be thrown into the dungeons. The memory of his small daughter, eyes full of sorrow, asking him, Have you started to hate me too? Surfaced in his mind, and Seth Floss closed his eyes and made himself stay cold. No, I cannot afford to show weakness, not once. Liriana had bowed sadly and said, I will take my leave, Your Majesty. Then she had run back to her room, thrown herself on the bed, and Manny lay there scolding herself. She should not have shown her hand that early, not if she wanted the Emperor's trust. Had she just thrown away everything she had been building? Just then, Ames slipped through the window, landed lightly on her knee, and tugged at her sleeve. Manny turned away, refusing to look at it. And then Tanya was knocking hard at the door. Lady Liriana, it's Tanya. His Majesty has issued a decree. Please come out and hear it. Manny's heart missed a beat. A decree at this hour? Was Seth Floss about to end Liriana the way he had ended her? At that same hour, standing at his own window, Seth Floss was remembering the clear eyes of a child asking him whether he had begun to hate her. Why were those green eyes so exactly like that woman's? The knight read the decree aloud. Liriana of Canvaria, of the North Tower. You have disturbed the order of the royal house and deserve expulsion from the palace. This is not a fault easily forgiven. However, by His Majesty's grace, Liriana of Canvaria is hereby ordered to move her residence to the Emerald Palace. Tanya cried out with joy. My lady, this is wonderful. His Majesty has changed his mind. You are going back to the main palace at last. Manny stood there without moving. The Emerald Palace was where she had lived. It was also where Seth Floss had run his sword through her. The next morning, Manny and Tanya packed and moved to the Emerald Palace, met at the door by a row of bowing new servants. Tanya stared around her in wonder. Manny only felt uneasy. What is Seth Floss calculating now? Dragging the tower's new head of household along too. Poor Tanya. She may have been safer where she was. A polished steward led them into an opulent fitting room to wait for the designer who would prepare her new wardrobe. Tanya was still gasping at the room when a loud argument broke out beyond the door. Move aside. Why exactly may I not go in? Your Highness, you cannot enter at this moment. The door banged open. A girl with gleaming blonde hair swept in an elaborate red and black dress. Madeline, I told you to report to me first whenever you come to the palace. Then she stopped short, and her red eyes lifted in disgust at the sight of Manny and Tanya. What is this filthy thing doing here? Tanya whispered, terrified. Lady Liriana, that is Princess Brenna. Brenna sniffed. A face I have never seen before. She would remember it for the rest of her life. The steward stepped in smoothly. Your Highness, one moment, please. His Majesty has given orders. Brenna's eyebrows shot up before he finished. What? You mean His Majesty has something more important than me? Manny stepped forward and spoke evenly. Liriana. That is my name, not that thing. She studied her opponent quietly. Brenna of Canvaria, the Empire's only princess, called the Flower of the Sun, raised in silk and drowned in praise. Liriana had been born at the same hour, carrying the same royal blood, and sent down the exact opposite road. While Manny was still thinking, the maid at Brenna's shoulder lunged and slapped her hard across the face. Brenna laughed. What kind of creature are you to speak a princess's name with that filthy mouth? No respect for the royal house at all. The blow stung. Manny only smiled, thin and cold, and her emerald eyes sharpened. Manners, that is the thing you are missing. Just then, the maid leaned in and whispered something in Brenna's ear. Brenna's face changed. What? That is the witch's daughter? The steward took his chance. Your Highness, this comes directly from His Majesty. From now on, Madeline will also design for Princess Liriana. That was when Brenna genuinely lost her temper. What? Then who is making my birthday gown? Madeline is my personal designer. I will not share her with that commoner. My father built this fitting room for me, Manny answered without blinking. And why should I not be permitted? I carry the Emperor's direct blood as well. Or are you afraid of losing the things you have kept to yourself all your life? That was the drop that broke the glass. Brenna flew at her, hand raised. You blood-sucking little thing, nobody ever raised you properly, did they? But before Brenna's hand could land, something white dropped off the chandelier like a loosed arrow. Aim hit Brenna full in the face and knocked her flat on her back. Screaming, "What is this thing? Somebody help me." The whole room went to pieces. A maid grabbed at the dragon, but Aim slipped through every hand, circled the room once, and dove into Manny's arms to be petted. Manny held the little dragon and felt her soul leave her body. She was touched to be defended, but honestly. Aim, if you land in my arms right now, we go down together. Brenna's servants shrank back. What in God's name is that creature? Is it the witch's familiar? Tanya threw her arms around Liriana and stood her ground. Mind your mouths, all of you. The air was pulled tight as a wire when a familiar rescuer appeared at the door. Dagon leaned in cautiously. Is something wrong? May I come in? The instant she saw him, Brenna switched into the frightened innocent and rushed at him. Dagon, did you come for me? I was so frightened just now. Dagon stepped neatly around her and bent close to Manny. Liriana, were you showing Amy off to everyone? Manny whispered back. Not at all. It launched itself. I never had a chance. Dagon turned to reassure the room. Nobody panic. Aim is a little aggressive, that's all. As long as you don't provoke it. Watching him care only about Liriana, Brenna cut in, furious. Dagon, what just happened here? Are you going to leave me standing? Dagon startled and bowed properly. Your Highness, forgive me. I hope you have been well. Brenna produced a smile. I have told you not to be so formal with me. Now. About my birthday banquet. You will be there, Lord Dagon, won't you? I am very much looking forward to it. Then Brenna came closer to Manny, and something sly moved in her eyes. I think the party needs one more guest. I would very much like you to attend, Liriana. Manny knew perfectly well she was being set up to be humiliated. She also knew it was the golden chance to step into the light. She answered calmly, I will certainly come. Thank you for the opportunity. Brenna's lip curled. I will send your invitation. Back to the Ruby Palace. The moment Brenna was gone, the celebrated Madeline swept in, glittering and thrilled. Oh, is this lovely child Princess Liriana, and that rare black hair. Heavens, this is going to be fun. Madeline hauled out an armful of gowns and set Tanya to helping Liriana change. Dagon reddened. I'll wait outside then. Madeline caught his arm. Not so fast, young man. The first showing is about to begin and we need a gentleman's opinion. The curtain drew back, and Manny stepped out in deep blue silk trimmed with white lace, lovely as a flower opening. Dagon turned and his mouth simply stopped working. He was entirely undone. That really suits you, Liriana. You look like a fairy out of a tapestry. She smiled shyly. Thank you. Madeline, of course, was nowhere near finished. Her eyes were blazing. Right. Next one. Black hair like this catches every wavelength of light. There is no better canvas anywhere. I will use the most expensive materials I have for my lady's banquet gown. When Tanya collapsed from exhaustion, Manny surrendered. Enough for today. Tanya is worn out. Madeline pouted. My inspiration was only just arriving. Besides, look, the little one is enjoying this. Manny turned and found Amy installed on a velvet cushion in a diamond-studded scarf, chin in the air, thoroughly pleased with itself. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. This is the first time I have ever seen Amy look proud of anything. Night fell, and they returned to the Emerald Palace. Passing through the great gate, Manny saw that every one of the old servants had been replaced. These were Seth Floss's eyes, set to follow her every move. While she was still weighing it, a maid with pale violet hair came forward and curtsied warmly. Lady Liriana, my name is Bennett. From today, I will be your personal maid. It is an honor to serve you. From now on, you will dine in this hall, and over there... Manny cut her off. Bennett, that is enough. Tanya has only worked in the tower until now. My lady must learn her new home. Surely you want someone who knows this place. Please allow me to stay at your side. New home, Manny repeated silently. Does nobody here know Liriana was born in this palace? She let it go and nodded. Bennett brightened and took her hand. Wonderful. Let me show you the corridor out to the back garden. But as Bennett drew her toward that corridor, Manny stopped dead, her heart hammering. That direction was where she had gone down under Seth Floss's blade. She saw herself in the blue gown, lying in a widening pool of blood in front of the red door. She shut her eyes hard and told herself to breathe. It was only the past, only a ghost of it. But the wound went too deep, and Liriana's exhausted body simply gave out. Manny crumpled to the floor. As she slipped under, an old memory came back. Her small daughter, sad-voiced, asking her, Mother, why does His Majesty never come to see us? Is it because my body is weaker than other children's? If I were not here, would your life be better? Mother. Manny had wept then. No, Liriana, without you there is nothing. She woke deep in the night, aching in every joint. Liriana's frail body had been driven far too hard for days. She lay looking into the dark, and the weight in her chest would not lift. Liriana's shape in her dreams was growing fainter each night. The child's time had stopped somewhere in the past. Even the bright chatter that used to run to her had gone quiet, as though death were pulling mother and daughter apart for good. Something under her ribs warned her that she was running out of time. As fast as she possibly could, She had to take hold of Seth Floss's trust and become a princess of the Canvarian Empire, because that rank meant wealth, rare ancient grimoires, and the finest specialists in every field. Only as a recognized princess could she unravel the old magic that had locked her inside her daughter, and a noble title would be the best shield Liriana could ever have. For her child, she would give up anything. While she was hardening that resolve, a night wind moved the curtain. Ami? Manny found the little dragon sitting out on the balcony under the moon. She went to it, gathered it up and rubbed its head. You are heavier than you used to be. Where do you disappear to every day? Looking at the small creature, the fear she'd been holding down rose up again. What if she lost Liriana forever, like this? If the worst happened, what was she supposed to do? Sensing her mood, Aim made a small sound almost like a cat. Amy, what is it? And the mana stone at her throat flared into brilliant light. Magic wrapped around them both, and without any warning, Aim pulled Manny straight out of the window and up into the open sky. Manny shrieked, "We are going to fall!" But there was no fall. The two of them hung weightless in a night full of stars. Below them, the whole palace of Canvaria lay burning with lamplight. Manny could not speak. This is levitation? Is this you, Amy? The dragon rumbled softly against her. Looking down on the empire from that height, she felt something she had never felt in her life. She felt free. And thinking back, she understood. The time she had been at her lowest, Amy had tried to comfort her. Against Princess Brenna, Amy had thrown itself in front of her without hesitating. Every time she hit a wall, had this small creature been quietly guarding her all along? Watching the full moon cross the dark, Manny held Aim tight. And in that moment, surrounded by loneliness and pressure, she understood that she was not alone. The days ran on in preparation for the banquet. Bennett and Tanya fussed over every detail and dressed Manny in the finest thing in the room. And then Princess Brenna's birthday arrived. In the most lavish hall in the empire, nobles came from everywhere, ambassadors of distant kingdoms among them. It carried the name of a birthday party, but everyone understood it was politics at the highest level. The murmur swelled as Princess Brenna made her entrance. "We greet your highness." She smiled radiantly, and her voice was pure honey. "Thank you all for coming to my birthday. The banquet begins once my father arrives. Please enjoy your evening." The nobles below traded compliments. "So beautiful. She looks more like the Empress every year. And look, she and young Dagon make a matched pair, don't they?" Hearing them pair her with Dagon, Brenna laughed prettily at him. "Did you hear what they said? Isn't it funny?" But Dagon had been scanning the hall for Liriana and had not heard a word. He startled. "Forgive me, your highness. Could someone repeat that?" The smile froze on Brenna's face. And at that moment, the great doors of the hall swung open. Manny walked in, and the whole banquet stopped breathing. She wore royal blue cut with bands of white lace and a single elegant flower made by Madeline's own hands. Madeline's exclusive brooch burned on her chest. The young noblewomen closed around her, delighted. "Look at that gown. I'm Ellie. May I see that brooch more closely? Which house are you from?" Manny was still deciding how to answer when Brenna drifted up with a poisonous smile. "Well, I did not think you would actually dare." A noble asked, "Does your highness know this lady?" Brenna raised her fan and pitched her voice for the entire hall. "How could I not know her? That is the daughter of the woman my father personally ordered put to death. The witch's daughter." The hall fell into total silence, then broke into hissing and revulsion. The witch's daughter? The one who caused the rain of blood a year ago? Why is that child here? She should be locked in that tower for life. How dare she show her face? Under all that contempt, Manny stood straight and did not move. She let herself smile faintly. What luck that the one standing here is me and not Liriana. My daughter will never have to hear any of this. Brenna leaned in and whispered something vicious in triumph. Then, she turned and walked away as if nothing had happened, leaving Manny alone in the middle of a room that had shut her out. Manny thought it over. Better to get out into the garden before the banquet formally begins. Seeing her go, Dagon started after her, but his father's hand closed on his shoulder. "Dagon, keep to your place." Dagon bowed his head. "Forgive me, father." With Dagon pinned down, Brenna was pleased with herself, and a few noble girls resumed flattering her. "Your highness, your gown tonight is gorgeous. This is Madeline's work, isn't it?" The smile on Brenna's face went stiff. She hid her anger behind her fan and played the wounded heroine. Oh, thank you all. In fact, Madeline did not make this gown. But it doesn't matter. With friends as good as you, what does a dress matter? Which reminds me, the gown the witch's daughter was wearing earlier, and the girls took the bait instantly. What happened, Your Highness? Tell us everything. Meanwhile, Manny walked out alone to the stone bridge over the lake and sighed. These childish games are exhausting. She had barely stopped when a pack of noble children closed around her. You worthless thing, how dare you look at what belongs to the princess? Grab her, Manny shouted. Let go, do not put those filthy hands on Liriana's body. In the scuffle, the Mana Stone necklace came loose from her collar. The children shrieked. A Mana Stone. She really is the witch's daughter. Idiot, that's just an emerald. Base children can't use magic. No, the princess said she keeps a monster too. Take the necklace first. They all lunged at once. Manny was shoved backward off the bridge and went into the deep water. The children stared down in horror. This is bad. What do we do? Can anyone swim? If my mother sees these clothes wet, she will kill me. Under the surface, the heavy banquet gown dragged Manny steadily toward the bottom. I can't breathe. This dress is too heavy. The Mana Stone. I cannot use magic in Liriana's body. Liriana. Am I really going to drown in something this stupid? Someone, please. And at the very edge of it, a hooded figure came down through the water like a loosed arrow and scooped her up. The young man in the cloak spoke lightly. Don't play such dangerous games. What if I hadn't seen you? Manny coughed water, gasping. I'm alive. I'm alive. He glanced at the necklace on her throat. That thing you're wearing is a mana crystal. Do you know the first formula of exchange magic? It can swap the positions of two objects of equal mass. Manny blinked. What on earth is this man talking about? Grateful as I am, the young man pushed back his hood, revealing a beautiful face, platinum hair, and eyes of an unearthly violet. He smiled, and it was a wicked smile. Well, shall we exchange places with those little brats up there? Manny declined fast. Please don't, they didn't mean it. He smiled as though he knew better. Fine, if that is your wish, I will respect it. And the instant he said it, a wall of water fell out of a clear sky onto the children on the bridge, soaking their expensive clothes and sending them screaming away. He helped Manny up and offered a hand. Come, give me your hand. She held it out uncertainly, and a gentle wave of magic passed over her. In one blink, every drop of water was gone from her gown and her hair, dry as if she had never fallen. Manny was genuinely impressed. He controls the elements with total ease. Looking closer, she saw that every gem he wore was high-grade mana crystal. He had to be an archmage, or something even higher. And from his face alone, he was certainly not Canvarian. She bowed politely. Thank you for helping me. He smiled brightly. Any time. Then he looked at her, eyes glittering as though waiting for something, and she had no idea what. At that moment, Dagon came sprinting up. There you are. I'm sorry, Liriana. I couldn't leave my place. It took me this long to slip away. The platinum-haired man turned gracefully and walked off. And Manny remembered something. Wait, I never told him my name was Liriana. Dagon stared after him, curious. That nobleman. He's the mage from the kingdom of Hisha, isn't he? What happened here? Manny blinked. Hisha? Hisha was the kingdom of magic and ships north of Canvaria. A young power, rich on sea trade, and Hisha was the homeland of Empress Herbia. So what was a mage from Hisha doing here? Dagon went on. That is Count Violet. They say he's a genius who has killed demon beasts and sealed 4 magic towers. I can't believe we ran into him here. Manny turned it over. Why does he feel familiar? She was almost certain she had met the man somewhere before. Dagon took her hand and led her back to the hall. They had just stepped inside when the herald's voice rang out. His Majesty Seth Floss and Her Majesty Empress Herbia. The knights drew their swords in the highest salute. The Emperor and Empress came out onto the second-floor balcony in full state. Princess Brenna ran up and threw her arms around them. Father, Mother. From the floor below, Manny's eyes met Empress Herbia's. The Empress's gaze narrowed, and the corner of her mouth lifted in a cold amusement. Oh dear, why is that child here? Brenna cut in, pleased with herself. You mean the witch's daughter, Mother? I invited her personally. What? What did you just say? The cold coming off Seth Floss made Brenna flinch. Father, did I do something wrong? Seth Floss rubbed his forehead, exhausted. It's nothing. I have the delegation to receive. Brenna clung. Please, Father, stay with me a little longer. Empress Herbia glided in to soothe her. His Majesty loves you more than anyone, my dear. But matters like this can wait for another time. Brenna bowed her head. Yes, Mother. I'm sorry. Watching her father go, Brenna's eyes filled. Her birthday had turned into a battlefield and she had been scolded for it. She looked down at the floor below, where Manny was calmly eating cake with Dagon, and hatred rose in her throat. That thing took Dagon. It took her gown. She would never forgive it, and she would not wait long to prove it. Down below, Manny let her eyes flick up to the balcony, and the corner of her mouth curved. There. Somebody is staring at me. She does not look pleased at all. Now the real performance begins. Manny lifted her skirt and walked. At that hour, Seth Floss stood among the noble delegates. Manny picked her moment exactly, went straight to him, and spoke brightly. I hope your Majesty has been well. The nobles around him choked. What is this? That child dares approach the Emperor? Manny counted silently. 1, 2, 3. Exactly on cue. At 3, Brenna appeared. A very intelligent decision, Manny thought. She has the instincts a princess needs. She understands that attention here matters far more than charming a few little noble girls. What she does not understand is that this decision is about to serve me. A minister came up and started flattering Brenna. Your Highness, they say your swordsmanship improves every month. Truly the blood of His Majesty. Brenna laughed. That is all Master Robert's teaching. Lately the blade feels light in my hand. And my father instructs me himself sometimes. Manny cut in from beside her. If you look down at your sword, the sword may come to look down on you. Master Robert never stops saying it. That belongs on the first page of any manual of the blade. Brenna went scarlet. And what of it? Manny feigned confusion. Oh, I only worry that your Highness might be hurt. Brenna lost her temper entirely. Her teeth ground together. How dare you? You seem to know a great deal about swords. Then why not become my opponent? I am formally challenging you. Looking at that reckless fury, Manny thought, there it is. She curtsied, entirely composed. As you wish, your Highness. I accept. The hall erupted at her answer. Dagon stared at her in alarm. The nobles murmured. Has the girl lost her mind? The princess passed student level years ago. Brenna lifted her chin, pleased, and closed every exit. Then it is settled. In Canvaria, a word is guaranteed by the blade. It cannot be taken back. And at that, Seth Floss spoke. Very well. I will preside over this duel myself. It will be held 1 month from today. Until then, Master Robert will instruct Liriana in the sword. Brenna shrieked, What? I refuse! One look from Seth Floss shut her mouth. Brenna, enough sulking. Liriana, you as well. Return to your palace. Manny bowed politely. As you command, your Majesty. With Liriana pushed into a formal duel, Dagon could not stop himself. How can Master Robert help Liriana when she has never held a sword in her life? He did not finish. His father hauled him back by the collar, apologized to the Emperor, and warned his son in a low voice. Dagon. What do you think you are doing in front of His Majesty? For tonight's recklessness. I will deal with you after the banquet ends. Back at the palace, Brenna sobbed into Empress Herbia's lap. Father was so unfair. In front of you, he handed my own swordmaster to that thing. Herbia stroked her hair. Do not fret, my dear. With His Majesty and myself beside you, what is there to fear? It was true. Around a princess of the blood, there were always hands ready to prop her up and clean the field for her. At the Emerald Palace, Tanya brushed Manny's hair and worried aloud. My lady, are you truly going to duel her? Manny turned the wooden practice sword in her hands. I am. I have never studied the blade. But from today, Master Robert will teach me. She needed a way to protect Liriana immediately, without using magic. That hope lasted until Bennett came running in with the news. Lady Liriana, they say Master Robert has been injured in a carriage accident. Manny's eyes narrowed. An accident? This was arranged, and by someone deliberate. She kept her voice level. What did His Majesty say? Bennett answered, that he will send a replacement instructor. Manny set the wooden sword down and consoled herself. A shame about Master Robert, but it hardly matters, as long as someone teaches me. She stood alone in the garden with the wooden sword, waiting. and Tanya came running, pale. "My lady, the new swordmaster has slipped on the stairs and injured himself." Manny went still, the second one as well. Someone was deliberately keeping a blade out of her hands. But whether it was a person or fate itself, she was not going to sit still and wait to die. At that same hour, at the ducal residence, Dagon sat by his window under his father's confinement order. Manny went to see him. "I'm sorry, Dagon, I heard your father confined you." "Was it because you stood up for me that day?" Dagon took her hand and shook his head. "No, it was me. I should understand my father's intentions better by now. The more I want to be like him, the further away from him I feel." Manny gripped his hand and pulled. "We're going outside." Dagon panicked. "What?" "Liriana, I'm under confinement. It's fine. Because from today, you are my swordmaster. I already wrote to His Majesty for permission." Elsewhere, the Duke read that letter and had absolutely nothing to say. "You really are willing to teach me, Lord Dagon? Have you ever crossed blades with the princess?" Dagon thought about it. "Actually, quite a few times. Whenever she needs a sparring partner her own age, they usually pick me." Manny smiled. "Then that is more than enough. I am counting on you." And she thought, Dagon is the only child alive who can stand level with the princess. Which means his skill is exceptional. Whoever was blocking her could reach maids and ordinary instructors. Nobody would dare touch the house of Duke Gondif. So the sunlit garden became a training floor for two children. Dagon corrected her stance, and every swing over and over. Then in one session, Manny struck the wooden dummy hard enough to snap her practice sword in half, and the splintered edge opened her hand. Dagon ran to her. Manny looked at the blood and shook her head. "It's nothing, a scratch." Dagon insisted. "Even so, we stop for today." Manny looked at her burning palm, and the weight settled again. Dagon taught well. Liriana's body improved every day. But the real problem was time. At this rate, she could not touch the skill or the stamina of a girl trained in this palace since infancy. She was still stuck there when a familiar, amused voice spoke behind her. "Why don't we try pushing a little harder?" Manny and Dagon spun around. Sitting at his ease on the wall was Count Violet. He smiled, and the smile was hypnotic. "I think I could be of some use here." Dagon bristled at the Archmage immediately. "We are busy. If you came out of idle curiosity, I must decline." Violet smiled on. "Wouldn't magic serve her better than the sword?" Dagon snapped. "What is that supposed to mean? We are doing everything we can. Besides, Liriana has never studied magic." Manny put a hand on his arm. "Dagon, calm down." She understood why he was so agitated. Brenna had inherited the Emperor's gift. She was the youngest champion the sword tournament had ever produced. Grown, she would command the aura of light exactly as Seth Floss did. Magic was plainly the only way to beat an opponent like that. And magic was the one thing Manny had already mastered completely. And still, she looked Violet in the eye and made her choice. "I will not use magic." All of it was for Liriana, so that the child would never end the way she had. Violet studied her, then smiled. "Is that so? If that is your decision, there is nothing I can do. I will be away from Canvaria for a time. I thought you should know." And the platinum-haired mage strolled away. Dagon raised the wooden sword high, blazing with determination. "Liriana. What the Count means is that we now have to shock every last one of them. We show them exactly how strong you have become." Manny laughed. "Dagon, you take my business more seriously than your own." Dagon scratched his head, embarrassed. "Not at all. You're the one training so hard. Get some rest tonight. See you tomorrow." He waved and ran off. Watching him go, Manny smiled. Liriana is lucky to have a friend like Dagon. And then, an unfamiliar carriage went past the gate, and something cold turned over inside her. She would remember it the next morning when they came to tell her about Dagon. She wondered, if Liriana's soul ever came back to this body, would Dagon still be standing beside her? Seeing her frozen there, Tanya hurried over. "Lady Liriana, is something wrong?" Manny shook her head. "Nothing. I only wondered whether Dagon got home safely. And now that I think of it, I have not seen Amy all day." Tanya hesitated, then walked her back to her room. Manny opened the door and stopped dead. The room was wrecked, furniture overturned, belongings flung across the floor. Bennett spread her hands helplessly. "The truth is, my lady, every time you go out, the fairy dragon does this. Especially if anyone tries to come in. Spotting its master, Amy growled from the middle of the table and bared its teeth. The maids hid behind Manny, close to tears. Manny sighed. "Aim, come here." In answer, Amy opened its mouth and blew a fireball that nearly took the room with it. The maid screamed. Manny rubbed her forehead and looked at the little dragon. "Keeping you in a palace really is difficult. Or is it that you would rather not stay with me at all?" Aim stopped. Its violet eyes went round and it stared at her. The moment Manny opened her arms, the dragon dove obediently into them and burrowed in. The servants sagged with relief. Manny held Aim and murmured, "I am sorry, but if you tear the place apart every time I leave, I am going to have to take you everywhere with me." And then she noticed something. Aim never went wild without a cause. It was as if the creature were warning her that a stranger had tried to get into her room. That night she told Tanya, "From now on, watch closely for anyone who comes near my room." Tanya bowed. "Yes, Lady Liriana." Manny was getting ready to sleep when Bennett burst in with bad news. "My lady, Lord Dagon." By dawn, Manny was running for the ducal residence. She arrived and stopped cold. Dagon's head was wrapped in white bandages and one arm was splinted against his chest. "Dagon, how are your injuries this bad?" He tried to laugh it off. "Liriana, that was fast." "It's nothing serious, look. I can still help you train." And one small movement wrenched the wound and twisted his face with pain. His friend Leo caught him and turned on Manny, furious. "As you can see, he is not remotely all right. There was a carriage accident yesterday. The axle sheared clean off and the whole thing went over." Leo could not hold it in, and he let her have it. "If this is not a curse, then what is it? How many people have been hurt lately just for helping you?" House Gondiff inspects its carriages every day. Axles do not simply break. You really are the witch's daughter. Injured as he was, Dagon lunged and grabbed Leo by the collar. "Leo, I never thought you were the sort of coward who swallows rumors. Go home. Today." With his friend sent away, Dagon apologized to Manny. She shook her head gently. "I am truly fine. You're exhausted, Dagon. Rest. From tomorrow I will train alone. Don't worry about me." Dagon's face fell. "Do you really not need my help anymore?" Manny explained patiently. "It is not that I don't need you, Dagon. It is that your recovery comes first. When you are well again, you can help me." At that, his eyes came back to life. He remembered something and brought out a wooden practice sword tied with a beautiful red ribbon. "A gift. You'll need it against the princess. They'll use practice blades, of course, not live steel." But Manny took it and something warm rose in her chest. "Thank you." Going back to look at the wrecked carriage, Manny thought hard. Everyone called it bad luck, or a curse aimed at her. But she knew House Gondiff checked its vehicles meticulously, and a sheared axle was no accident. This was a warning from whoever was standing behind all of it. She turned to Tanya. "Bring me every servant and driver connected to this." Whoever was behind it, she was not letting them run loose and hurt the people around her any longer. Manny went to call on Duke Canepa Gondiff. She walked into the drawing room and found a table buried under tea, cakes, and fruit. The Duke welcomed her warmly. "I prepared a little of everything, since I don't know what you like, Liriana. I hope something suits you." "So what brings you here?" Manny answered politely. "I never had the chance to thank you. You permitted Dagon to teach me the sword, didn't you?" "And about Dagon's accident," the Duke cut in. "You need not trouble yourself over that, Liriana. The wheelwright has confessed to neglecting his maintenance. He endangered this house. He will pay for it and be expelled." Manny's eyes narrowed. The wheelwright confessed. As easily as that. She reached into her pocket, drew out a large horseshoe nail, and rolled it across the table. The Duke stopped, staring at the iron. "That is a horseshoe nail. Where did you get this, Liriana?" Manny switched instantly into wide-eyed innocence. "Oh, I was upset about Dagon, so I went to look at the carriage and I found it driven into the wheel. The servants were whispering that the wheel came off because this big nail went into the axle, but they also said a wheel doesn't break that easily. The parts are replaced on schedule and the bolts are checked every day." The Duke stroked his chin and his eyes went dark and thoughtful. Manny went on, all innocence. A nail that size could hardly plant itself in an axle. But if somebody did it on purpose, would they really be foolish enough to leave the evidence sticking out? The Duke reasoned it through. The carriage was brought straight back here after the accident. No outsider had the chance. If this was deliberate, I am afraid it was done from inside my own house. This needs a deeper investigation. At dusk, as Manny prepared to leave, Tanya gaped at the mountain of gifts the Duke was sending back with them. Heavens, my lady, how are the two of us supposed to carry all of this? Manny reassured her, then remembered. Dagon's gift. It was heavy, so I left it with the Gondiff steward. I'll go back for it and come straight out. Manny walked the corridor of the residence, holding the ribboned wooden sword carefully against her chest. Only days remained before the duel with Brenna, and without Dagon, how was she supposed to train alone? She stood looking out over the wide courtyard, turning it over. Dagon's accident was partly her fault for assuming nobody would dare touch a house as powerful as Gondiff. Who was bold enough to strike at the Gondiff family? Was this a single outburst, or was there a real power working to cut Liriana off from everyone? The memories of her last life pushed in on her daughter clinging to her, crying, and then the spreading blood and the false accusation of black magic. She heard her own desperate scream from that day. No, I did not do it. Please, all of you, believe me. Why am I remembering this now, of all moments? And just then, a small sound out in the garden caught her attention. Manny went to look. What was that? Has the Duke already sent men to examine the carriage? But what she saw was no Gondiff servant. It was a stranger in a dark brown hooded cloak, moving along the wall in the shadows. Manny knew at once. That cloak did not belong to this house. She hesitated. What now? Should she raise the alarm? Before she could decide, the hooded figure vaulted the high wall in a single leap. Manny panicked. I have to follow him. If he really is the enemy, he will never show his face here again. She grabbed the sword and ran after him into the forest. But Liriana's frail body gave out fast. Manny gasped, legs shaking under her. If only Amy were here right now. At the edge of a deep ravine, the hooded figure vanished. Manny turned in circles, lost. A cliff. Have I lost him? Nothing to do but go back. And yet, the instant she turned, the man stepped out from behind a tree where he had been waiting and struck her across the back. Her vision went white, and she went down into the grass. He came closer, surprised to find his pursuer was a child. I thought somebody serious was following me. What now? The master said absolutely no witnesses. He crouched, hesitating, then decided. Even a child. This is no time for mercy. Don't blame me, girl. Over the cliff you go. He reached for her, and something white came out of the sky like a thrown spear. Aim dropped with its violet eyes burning, radiating a blue-violet pressure that filled the whole clearing. Manny's eyes opened, and the first thing she saw was that small back planted between her and the man. The hooded man backed off, shouting, "What is that? What kind of creature is that?" Before he could set himself, Aim shot upward and blasted an enormous fireball down at him. But the moment the flame touched him, a red magic shield flared and threw the whole attack aside. He laughed, teeth bared, and raised a dark staff. I knew it. The master's mana crystal protects me. Manny went cold. He blocked Amy, and that was black magic, unmistakably. The man began raising a sinister magic circle, and his voice turned ugly. Your luck ran out. Falling off the cliff would have hurt less. Don't blame me for this. Aim landed and put itself between them again. He sneered. You stupid animal, I told you your attacks do nothing to me. What he did not know was that the little dragon had no intention of using fire again. Every hair on Manny's body stood up at once. A bolt of lightning came out of the sky straight down onto the hooded man. The crack of it dropped him screaming, and he crumpled smoking on the ground. Manny stared. Is he unconscious? After a hit like that, obviously. Aim puffed out its chest and lifted its chin, insufferably pleased. She had to laugh at it. Amy, you know how to play dirty too? And having won, Amy promptly ran out of power and passed out in her arms. Just then, Tanya came crashing through the trees, checking her frantically. Lady Liriana, what happened? Are you hurt anywhere? The Duke is almost here. Manny held Amy close. I'm not hurt. Aim just fell asleep on me. And then the man on the ground groaned, dragged himself up on his last strength, and spat through his teeth. I am not letting you go. Black energy erupted from the staff, aimed straight at Tanya. Manny's mind tore in too. Once she opened her mana channel, there was no closing it. The witch's daughter uses magic. She could see exactly how the palace would look at Liriana after that. Everything would get worse, many times over. And in that split second, on the very edge of it, her daughter's crying voice rang through her mind. Mother, please protect her. Mother, please protect her. That small, desperate voice gave her everything she had left. She did not think. Her legs simply moved. The mana stone at her throat shattered and golden light exploded out of it. A vast magic circle bloomed and threw the black attack back. The hooded man screamed. What? This child is a mage? Impossible. My magic is being driven back. Manny forced herself upright. Liriana's mana channel was open, but the child's reserves were nowhere near enough for a head-on fight. And as the enemy's next attack rose to swallow her, a blade tore the air apart. Duke Kanapa Gondif arrived like a god and cut the man down where he stood. He caught Manny, alarmed. Lady Liriana, are you hurt? The sudden mana surge left her reeling, and her spent body collapsed into the Duke's arms. The Duke came in gently, so you're awake. You have been unconscious for 2 days, Manny jolted. 2 days? He asked after her kindly. How do you feel? Does anything hurt? And before his smile had faded, a tall shadow detached itself from the corner of the room. Seth Floss stood with his arms folded against the door. First, you will explain to me exactly how you came to use mana. Then he pointed at the fragments of the necklace. That mana crystal was your dead mother's. Every magical possession of hers was destroyed without exception. So how did it come to be in your hands? Manny flinched, then found her balance fast. Someone brought it to me while I was in the tower. I don't know who. I kept it because I have so little of my mother's. That was not a lie. After she died and woke again, it was Aim who found the necklace she had lost. Duke Gondif tried to intervene. Seth Floss, perhaps this can wait. Liriana's body is still, and Seth Floss cut him off flatly. Withdraw, Duke. That is an order. Duke Gondif bowed and left. With the Duke caught in it, Manny spoke up quickly. Your Majesty, please do not punish the Duke. Without him, I would. Seth Floss snapped. You ask far too much. You said you wanted the tower changed. I allowed it. You demanded a duel with the princess. I agreed. You wanted the Gondif heir to teach you the sword. I even granted that. And this is how you repay my tolerance, Liriana. Perhaps it would have been better if you had never left that tower. Better. The word went into the deepest wound Manny had. Her temper broke. She walked straight at the Emperor. What exactly am I to your Majesty? You have never given me one thing I actually needed. You have never once cared what I felt. And you call that tolerance? When I was small, my mother told me magic was not something to fear. She said it was beautiful. She said your Majesty told her that yourself. Seth Floss looked at her with nothing in his eyes and said the cruelest thing he could have said. I do not remember. Something closed around Manny's heart and squeezed. This man had cut open the same wound twice. He turned to leave and left a threat behind him. We have wasted enough time. Go back to the Emerald Palace. I would watch you myself, but I have far too much to handle, so I will need other eyes in my place. And so the net drew tighter. Every step she took now had 2 armored knights half a pace behind her. Manny had enough. You are not planning to follow me into the bedroom as well, I hope. Stand outside the door and guard it. The moment she was inside, Tanya flew at her in tears. Lady Liriana, I am so glad you're safe. I'm sorry. I always want to help you, and instead you end up protecting me. Manny stroked the girl's hair. Not at all. You did well. You ran for help, and that is why the Duke reached me in time. Come on. The 2 of us are having a tea party. Go and make tea and bring the biscuits you like. When Tanya went out, Manny thought back to that moment in the forest. Just before her mana broke open, she had heard Liriana's voice calling. Was her daughter still in there after all? Tanya came back with the tea and a piece of fresh gossip. Oh, that's right. They say the royal house is recruiting young nobles for a special class. There are lectures on swordsmanship from the commander of the knights himself. Would my lady like to try? The word special class caught Manny instantly. At the Royal Academy, the classroom was loud with talk. One noble girl was crowing about her invitation to Princess Brenna's tea party. Leo, Dagon's closest friend, poured cold water on it from across the room. You're very noisy. The princess is the impressive one here, not you. The girl bristled. That was rude, Leo. Would you like us to include you in the conversation? No, said Leo, turning away, bored. I have no interest in this ridiculous class. Without Dagon here, I could die of boredom. And then the door opened, and Manny walked in unhurried in fine clothes and a neat little hat. The whole class started whispering at once. What is that? Why is the witch's daughter here? Did she come to the wrong room? Leo watched her walk to a desk, chin on his hand, and a wicked little smile crept onto his face. Well, suddenly I am not bored at all. Manny sat down and thought, shaking those 2 knights at the door to get in here was genuine work. She had no idea what was waiting under the red cover at the front of the room. Seeing Manny settle in with a ribboned wooden sword in her hand, Leo came over to sneer. My, someone as exalted as you in a place like this? Did you take a wrong turn on the way to basket weaving? And what is that pile of scrap metal in your hand? Manny answered with perfect calm. This sword? It was a gift from Dagon. The noble girl started whispering instantly. Really? Lord Dagon gave her that? So they are as close as people say. But didn't Leo just call it scrap? Leo scrambled. No, I meant nothing by it. I meant it looks solid, like steel. Manny smiled to herself. He is jealous and about nothing at all. Leo went red to the ears. Stop smiling like that. It's unsettling. And not everyone can be as polished as Dagon, you know. They were still going at each other when the instructor came in. Right, everyone in their seats? I am Captain Bowen Bulev, and I will be running this special swordsmanship class. The captain looked them over and smiled mysteriously. Before we begin, I heard something rather interesting. Anyone who carries a blade has to sit with this question. What do you do when the opponent in front of you is stronger than you are? What is the most efficient way to neutralize an enemy's strength? Meanwhile, in her private training hall, Princess Brenna listened to Bennett's report. The witch's daughter joined the class as well? She is no threat to me regardless. Do you have anything more interesting? Bennett hesitated. They say Lord Dagon has given Lady Liriana a gift. At that, Brenna's eyes went red with rage. A gift. Back in the special class, Captain Bowen hauled the red cover off a large cage and announced it proudly. And today's sparring partner for our special lesson is a fairy dragon. Inside the reinforced iron cage, curled up asleep, was Aim. Manny stared. Why is Aim in there? Bowen presented it to the class. As you can see, this fairy dragon has been trained and shows no aggression. But like every dragon, it has extremely high natural defenses. Today's task is to find your opponent's weak point and neutralize it. Leo volunteered before anyone else. Sir, let me go first. This is easy. I've trained with my father every year without fail. A dragon's weak point is the reverse scale under the jaw. Manny leaned in and whispered urgently, Captain, that fairy dragon actually belongs to me. Normally it is vicious and extremely dangerous. Bowen waved a hand and laughed. What? Impossible. This dragon was brought here by carriage. Don't worry, my lady. A trained fairy dragon is perfectly gentle. A girl raised her hand. Sir, can fairy dragons normally make tornadoes? Manny pointed in horror. Aim, don't. Too late. Amy beat its wings and a howling gale tore through the hall. Leo never got near the reversed scale. He went straight up into the air and ended up dangling off the second-floor balcony, yelling his head off. Help, somebody help me. Sometime later, Captain Bowen was bowing to Manny in apology. My sincere apologies. There must have been a mix-up when the cargo was loaded. Thank you for not pressing the matter. If there is anything I can do, please ask. Manny's eyes lit up. She leaned close. In that case, could you tell me the princess's weaknesses? Bowen froze. The princess's weaknesses? That puts me in a very difficult position, my lady. Manny turned enormous eyes on him and hugged Aim for effect. Not even that? I'll study so much harder, Captain Bowen. The captain folded on the spot. All right, but I will tell you her strengths instead. Confidence and exemplary conduct. Those are the two that stand out. The rest you find on your own. Find it on my own. Without a mana crystal, how am I supposed to find anything? Manny carried the wooden sword home, sighing, and Tanya met her beaming. Lady Liriana. Perfect timing, you have a visitor. Manny frowned. She had no appointments. She opened the door and stopped functioning entirely. Count Violet stood there behind an enormous armful of violet roses. Congratulations on becoming a mage. And standing right beside him, smiling warmly, was Dagon. Good evening, Liriana. Manny looked at the two of them together and despaired quietly. What is this combination? The atmosphere in the tea room was remarkable. Dagon sat glaring at the uninvited guest, while Manny wished she were anywhere else. So the two of you met by chance at the gate? Violet sipped his tea and betrayed him cheerfully. Not chance at all. Lord Dagon has been pacing outside this palace for quite some time. Dagon went crimson and changed the subject. So, Liriana, how is your sword training coming along? Manny smiled. I practice every day exactly as you taught me, and today I sat a special lecture. Dagon's face clouded over with worry. Listen, I heard you were attacked by a stranger. Security in the capital has been increased and they are hunting the man, so please don't worry. And from now on, I am never letting Liriana get hurt again. Manny looked at the boy, moved, and Violet nodded approvingly beside her. Very dependable. Dagon went red all over again and stared at the stack of glittering boxes in the corner. Manny asked, Count, what are all these? Violet smirked. Open one. She lifted a lid, and she and Dagon both drew breath at once. Inside was jewelry set with high-grade mana crystal glowing softly. Manny pushed it away in alarm. This is far too valuable. I cannot possibly accept a gift like this. Violet only smiled. I hear your mana channel has opened. It is a congratulatory gift. In my homeland of Hesha, it is the custom. Dagon objected flatly. Count, congratulations require a proper and specific reason. Violet smiled and turned those hypnotic violet eyes on Manny. A specific reason? Then I will become your patron. How does that sound? Dagon and Manny both stopped breathing. The master of a famous magic tower was offering direct patronage. Dagon explained it to her. A tower master grants exclusive support, supplies mana crystal, provides magical instruments, and passes on his entire body of knowledge to his successor. Hesha is famous for exactly this system of sponsoring magical talent. Manny lowered her head to refuse. I cannot accept such a thing. And Violet asked one quiet question that went straight into the dark corner of her. Do you truly believe your mother did something wrong? Manny's whole body jolted. Her own past rose up in front of her. She stared at the Archmage. You know a great deal about me. Violet smiled. Don't make that face. The palace is where every rumor in the world comes to live. Your duel with the princess is soon, isn't it? You need to become a mage. Magic is sharper than the sword, more beautiful, and far greater. You can prove that in front of every one of them. The offer bored into her. Prove it? Prove she had not been wrong? But she had already died once. That was a fact nothing would ever undo. She swallowed the ache and turned away without hesitating. I decline. Violet blinked at the bluntness of it. You. What? Wait, you don't want to learn more magic? Isn't magic the only way you beat the princess? Manny turned back and looked at the mage with open suspicion. This is all far too convenient. Dagon, this goes for you as well. Never take anyone's sweet words at face value like that. In any case, I will pretend I heard nothing. Please leave. Thrown out without ceremony. The celebrated count ended up sitting alone on the outside steps. He sighed, then smiled to himself. So be it. She will come to me on her own soon enough. Manny. Inside, Dagon asked her anxiously, Are you truly not going to regret this? I would rather you kept to the sword, but a tower master's patronage comes once in a lifetime. Manny met his eyes steady. Don't worry, Dagon, because I am going to win. In the days that followed, Manny trained without stopping, out in the pouring rain, asking herself with every swing how a child was supposed to beat the princess. How does anyone outfight a prodigy of the blade? Violet's words kept circling back. Magic is sharper than the sword. Magic is more beautiful. Seth Floss had said those same words to her years ago. But standing here now, they meant something completely different. The rain came harder. Water ran down her sleeves until the grip turned slick. The sword went out of her hands, and she went sprawling. Reaching for it, Manny stopped. She looked at the rainwater running along the flat of the blade, and it hit her. If she used that method, she could beat the princess outright. She stood back up and kept swinging in the rain. And she had no idea, standing there, what that one decision was going to cost Liriana. And so the day of the duel with Princess Brenna arrived. Your Majesty, the youth swordsmanship tournament is about to begin. The attendant's voice came through the door. Seth Floss sat on the edge of his bed, one hand pressed to a chest that was throbbing where the black magic brand burned in him. He answered through the pain. I know, I am coming. The Academy Tournament was one of the great annual events of Canvaria, the golden chance for young nobles to prove themselves and bring glory home to their houses. In the stands, the nobles were already talking. The next bout goes to the princess, obviously. Brenna is the brightest star of the year again. In proud crimson fencing dress, Brenna tightened her grip and her eyes shone with certainty. I will prove it to my father with my own hands. Exactly who the one true heir of Canveria is. Backstage, Tanya straightened Manny's jacket. Manny smiled. Thank you, Tanya. As she walked out toward the arena tunnel, Dagon came running after her, fussing over everything at once. Liriana, just do exactly as I taught you. The important thing is that you don't get hurt and you don't panic. Watching him, Manny did not know whether to laugh. Why is Dagon more frightened than I am? She smiled and steadied him. Don't worry, I'll do fine. I'm going in. Dagon and Tanya called after her. We'll be cheering for you. I'll stand where you can see me. Walking the empty corridor into the arena, Manny took a long breath. And a beautiful voice stopped her from behind. Well, we meet again. Hesitating out here, so close to your bout? Manny turned to find Empress Herbia with her arms folded and a false smile on her mouth. Manny curtsied calmly. My respectful greetings, Your Majesty. I am on my way to the arena. Herbia's eyes narrowed with amusement, truly impressive. You deserve credit for daring to challenge the princess when nobody else will touch her. Manny was not remotely rattled by the threat under it. She lifted her chin and answered like a blade. Is that so? The princess and I are both heirs carrying His Majesty's blood. Am I wrong? And before a sword, all of us stand on exactly equal ground. Your Majesty. The smile stalled on Herbia's face. Her eyes went sly and she spoke slowly. Oh, that reminds me. I heard the whole story from the Duke. What a terrible thing for you, going through something so dangerous trying to help the Gondif heir. They say a dark mage carrying mana crystal is extremely dangerous, exactly like your mother. Herbia dug into the old wound on purpose to break her. Manny only smiled faintly. How strange. I never told the Duke that my attacker was carrying a mana crystal. The smile went off Empress Herbia's face entirely. Manny had known all along. The one who wanted this thorn pulled out was this woman. Only when Brenna sat the throne would the Empress sleep soundly. Watching her go rigid, Manny curtsied coldly. If Your Majesty has nothing further, I will take my leave. Herbia found her smile again and called after her. You have not forgotten my advice, I hope. If you want to live out your life in peace, leaving the palace is the wisest thing you could do. I could even arrange an excellent match for you. Marquise Drevo of Hisha, of a rich and distinguished house. Manny turned back. Your Majesty's joke has gone too far. Since when has Drevo, a drunk who lives in his cups and raises his hand to his own sister, become an excellent prospect for marriage? The color left Herbia's face. How do you know that name? House Frey had traded everywhere, and every rumor in high society had passed through Manny's hands. She still remembered her mother's contempt when the Marquis came up. She had said he would be better suited to a pigsty. With her scheming laid open, Manny smiled at the Empress and spoke lightly. I will be calling on Your Majesty at the palace often from now on, if you will excuse me. Watching that small back walk away as the opening horns sounded, Empress Herbia ground her teeth. Manny's fist closed hard on the hilt. How dare that woman treat my precious Liriana this way? I will never forgive her. The Empress, and you as well. Walking out into the sunlit arena to face a proud Princess Brenna, Manny made herself a promise. If you cower and endure, this palace will bury you alive. So, Your Majesty, I am going to show you exactly who your daughter Liriana really is. On the platform, Manny and Brenna faced each other before the entire royal house. The nobles below sneered. The little snake is clever. She knows she will lose, but she took the bout to get His Majesty's attention. In the stands, Dagon was sweating hard. He gripped his hands together and made himself believe. No. Liriana would never treat this duel as a joke. Brenna glanced up at Dagon in the stands. Dagon, you're cheering for me, aren't you? Because if you are not, I will never forgive the witch's daughter. From the highest balcony, Seth Floss raised his hand, and his voice carried across the arena. You who step onto this floor do so before Canveria in honor and in courage. Let the victor take the glory she has earned. Begin. I'll be honest. I thought you would run. Sometimes running is the braver thing, you know? And on the last word, she came in like an arrow, blade driving at Manny's face. Manny got the wooden sword up in time and caught a strike that rang like thunder. Manny locked her teeth, the princess's blade. The gap in skill is enormous. That does not mean I have no way to win. She shoved her back. Brenna's lip curled. Not bad. At least you learned the basic forms, didn't you? Which means I no longer have to hold back. Let me show you how high the wall between us actually is. Brenna's attacks accelerated into a chain of thrusts that drove Manny fully onto the defensive. Her arms went numb under the pressure. Manny gasped, eyes locked on her. Simply tracking her movement is already too much for this body. But I will find the opening. The crowd murmured. That child is holding better than anyone expected. Others waved it off. Look properly. The princess is dominating completely. Brenna landed a heavy blow that drove Manny back several paces. She leveled her point at Manny's chest, sneering. What is it? Tired already? Is this all the resolve you brought to a duel with me? Manny planted her feet, both hands tight on the wooden sword, emerald eyes burning without a trace of fear. Envy and fury ate through Brenna's mind. To her, her father's attention, her mother's, the loyalty of the people, the extravagant gowns, and Dagon, who had walked out of a storybook. All of it belonged by right to the only princess of Canveria. The angrier she got, the harder she gripped, and her red eyes filled with killing intent. I meant to wait a while longer before showing you this. But a little early does no harm. A razor light gathered along Brenna's blade. Aura exploded around the steel. Dagon shot to his feet in the stands. That is aura. The nobles gasped. I cannot believe the princess can wield aura at her age. That is true royal blood. Nothing at all like a bastard. Even Seth Floss and the Empress on the balcony stiffened. Brenna smiled in triumph and aimed the burning blade at Manny. I did not want to go this far, but from now on I will not stop, even if you go down on your knees. And in answer, Manny simply smiled back at her. It drove Brenna out of her mind. Don't you dare pretend to be calm in front of me. She came in with a strike that could have split stone. Manny raised the wooden sword to meet it. Once a blade carries aura, it is no longer a practice weapon. A wooden sword will be splinters in a few exchanges. And still Manny was perfectly calm. She was remembering her mother's lesson. Every word has two faces. The princess's confidence is arrogance. Her exemplary conduct is rigidity. Arrogance looks solid enough, but it is glass with a crack already in it. Find the right seam and I can shatter it. Brenna set herself for the finishing blow, and golden light erupted out of Manny's wooden sword. The royal aura sheathed the blade end to end. The pressure of it rolled over the entire arena. The whole place went dead silent. What, the royal aura? Seth Floss came off his throne, red eyes wide with shock. The smile froze on Brenna's face. You? How could you possibly? That is the golden aura only the chosen of the royal house can use. Impossible. The arena broke into uproar. Dagon was as lost as anyone. It can't be. How can mana and aura exist in the same body? What did Liriana do? From the highest seat, Seth Floss narrowed his eyes, and his red gaze cut straight through it. That is not aura, that is mana. Golden mana is vanishingly rare. Exactly like her mother, this child carries it too. Brenna stood frozen, refusing to believe her own eyes. How can someone like you possibly... Manny lifted the mana-wrapped sword and drove a blazing cut in close to Brenna's face. I told you, I carry His Majesty's blood as well. Brenna stumbled back. Impossible, no. Manny looked straight into her eyes. At the start, she had calculated that she did not need to win. What she wanted was the crowd's sympathy. Watch a small girl with nothing throw everything she had at an arrogant princess, and every one of them would look at her daughter differently. And yet, remembering the Empress's face, something in her hardened. Not good enough. She wanted to win. In her last life, this mother had held no power at all to protect her child. Today, she wanted every person here to be forced to look. Brenna finally saw what was wrong with the blade and screamed, "You! That is not aura." Manny's mouth curved, cold, rather late to notice. She threw everything she had into one sweeping horizontal cut. The force tore the sword out of Brenna's hands, sent it spinning into the air, and it clattered across the floor. There was nothing standing in Liriana's way anymore. The arena fell absolutely silent. Brenna stood shaking, staring at her own empty hands. Seth Floss stepped to the edge of the balcony, and his cold voice carried to every seat. The victor is Liriana of Canveria. Defeated. Your Majesty, if this were a real battle, the bout would not be over. Empress Herbia forced it out, salvaging what she could for her daughter. Seth Floss only glanced at her. In a formal duel, what defeat is clearer than having your blade struck from your hand? Even an empress might learn a little. Herbia stared at him, because there was something on the Emperor's face that almost nobody had ever seen. He was smiling. The Empress's eyes went dark. Her hand closed on the balcony rail until the stone cracked under it. Whatever that child truly was, she would not be breathing by the next duel. The blow came out of nowhere, out of the open sky. A swarm of enormous demon beasts fell on the imperial palace and blasted the glass roof of the arena into powder. The whole stadium went into total panic. Nobles screamed and ran. Demon beasts. The arena is coming down. Evacuate. Protect the princess. This way, fall back this way. Get Her Highness out. Seth Floss vaulted the balcony rail without hesitating and dropped onto the arena floor. He drew and golden light exploded down the blade, and his order carried over everything. Get the guard on the Empress and the crowd, now. Stone and debris rained down. Brenna panicked. This cannot be happening. Demon beasts inside the palace? A vast beast pushed its head through the broken wall directly behind her. Manny shouted, "Brenna, pick up your sword!" Brenna could not move, and as the beast lunged to swallow her whole, a golden blade tore the air in half and dropped the creature dead in front of them. Seth Floss landed with his sword still burning. Brenna cried out in relief, "Father, you came for me." But as she ran toward him, an enormous section of ceiling gave way and came down straight on top of the two children. In the last possible instant, Manny threw everything she had into shoving Brenna clear. Brenna hit the floor and lived, and the mountain of stone came down exactly where Manny had been standing. Brenna screamed. Seth Floss spun around. He got out the name Leary, and the black magic brand on his chest went off in a wave of pain that stopped him where he stood. Dust rolled over everything. Brenna called out, frightened, "Father, are you hurt?" And under the rubble, Manny understood something. Once again, someone had moved her body against her own will. "Liriana, you are inside this body too, aren't you? If you can hear me, answer me. Even standing at the door of death, what mother would take her own daughter's body to go on living? If I could give you back yourself, I would give up anything at all." And then she looked up at the ruined ceiling, and another huge demon beast came screaming down through it. Manny bit down hard. If this is a dream, I want to wake up. But it is not a dream. However many tears I cry, nothing changes unless I do it myself. My last life taught me that. She tightened her grip on the sword Dagon gave her. She remembered what he had told her, that Gondif practice blades carry a mana crystal in the hilt, so even a beginner can control magic through them. A chance like this comes exactly once. With this sword, she could reproduce the lightning she had watched Amy call down. Manny came up onto her feet, raised the blazing blade, and screamed with everything a mother has, "How dare you touch my daughter!" A colossal bolt of golden lightning came down out of the sky and blew the demon beast apart where it stood. At that exact moment, Seth Floss cut through the wall of rubble in front of him and stopped dead at what he saw. His small daughter had put down a full-grown demon beast with her own hands. Seth Floss said her name quietly, "Liriana, Liriana." Her body finished, Manny staggered to him, caught the hem of his coat, and looked up with streaming eyes. "Your Majesty, you said the victor takes the glory she earns, didn't you? I won my duel with Princess Brenna, so please recognize me as a princess." And on that last word, Manny collapsed and went out in Seth Floss's arms. Watching all of it from above, Count Violet was thinking hard, remembering a voice that had once demanded of him, "Why would you do that?" What happened that day spread through the palace like a butterfly's wing. For some, it raised suspicion of the very worst kind. For others, it looked like a resolve that nothing on earth would move. Seth Floss carried Liriana in his arms, and his eyes were cold and lowered. Liriana's victory in that arena was the beginning of everything that changed after. At the Sapphire Palace, being scrubbed clean for a new occupant, the servants traded rumors, demon beasts inside the palace itself. The capital is not safe anymore. Strange, though. The palace is meant to be shielded by His Majesty's golden aura, unless something is wrong with His Majesty's body. The steward overheard and tore into them. "You two hold your tongues before they cost you your heads. Get back to work. The Sapphire Palace has a new mistress. The princess is moving in." In the Great Hall, Seth Floss sat the throne and made his declaration before every minister of the court. She enters the royal register and becomes a lawful princess of the Canvarian Empire. No one is permitted to question her blood or her rank. The court erupted. An elderly minister stepped straight out to object. "Your Majesty, this contradicts royal law as it has stood for generations. Furthermore, that child used magic in front of hundreds of witnesses. I beg your majesty to remember the prophecy. The witch will lead the demon beasts and Canveria will fall. Seth Floss narrowed his eyes. That child, is that so? Are you telling me that a child carrying my own blood will bring down Canveria? The minister dropped to his knees in terror. Another stepped in to smooth it over, insisting that a girl as frail as Liriana could not possibly summon demon beasts into the heart of the palace. And at that exact moment, a piece of news went through the hall like a spear. The stone that shields the palace, the Silverlight, which is bound directly to His Majesty's own life, has been stolen. The court dissolved into chaos. Seth Floss brought his hand down on the arm of the throne. Order. Liriana's entry into the register stands exactly as declared. And before the Crown Princess selection begins, the Silverlight will be recovered. That is not negotiable. Back in her room, Manny sat thinking beside the little dragon. The Silverlight is the treasure demon beasts want more than anything. The attacks, the dark mage, all of it circles back to the beasts. To solve any of it and keep Liriana alive, she had to understand what they were. And the only person in this empire who held that knowledge was Count Violet. At first light, Manny went to the famous Count's residence herself. The door opened on Violet in a half-open shirt, thoroughly unbothered, and he smiled that hypnotic smile. Ah. So that is why you came to me at dawn. New princess. Manny stood facing the Archmage in a magnificent red dress and did not flinch. Meanwhile, at the top of the highest tower, Empress Herbia was calling on her divine power to raise the shield over the palace again. The crowd below murmured in awe. To see the Empress's holy power with our own eyes. It's beautiful. A soft blue barrier spread out over the whole empire and pushed the fear of the beasts back. People cheered for the prosperity of Canveria. And then, the talk drifted onto more dangerous ground. And what about the Crown Princess selection? Normally, Princess Brenna would simply inherit. But the arrival of this new princess has changed everything. High above them, Empress Herbia's mouth curved into a slow, unreadable smile. Back at the residence, Violet yawned enormously and did up his shirt without any urgency. Well, push the books off the sofa and sit down. Manny watched him and gave up internally. Not one shred of decorum in front of a child. The two of them sat down to tea, and Violet propped his chin on his hand and blinked at her. So, you came to tell me you still don't want my patronage? Nothing has changed on your side? Oh yes, she had almost forgotten he had offered. Manny took her time with a piece of cake and nodded. That's right. For now, I do not intend to belong to anyone's faction. And to herself, she said the real reason. When Liriana comes back to this body one day, her life has to be hers to decide, not something tied down by a contract she never signed. Manny looked at the Archmage seriously. Count, you told me you are a tower master. Then you understand demon beasts better than anyone alive. Teach me about them. I am asking you sincerely. Violet looked at her without speaking for a while. Then he said 3 flat words. I refuse. Manny came out of her chair. What? You refuse before you have even heard why? On what grounds? Violet pointed at his own chest and winked. But I am far too suspicious, remember? Manny looked at that smile and despaired. So he is still holding a grudge about the last time she turned him down. She had no idea that the man refusing to discuss demon beasts was one himself. Violet pulled his coat back on and continued lazily. Princess, I do not answer every question put to me, especially not classified information about the beasts. That is for members of the Mages Guild only. Or shall I read you a nice fairy tale about demon beasts instead? Manny frowned and turned it back on him. Then what exactly is a mage of Hesha doing in the Royal Library of Canveria? If the secret matters that much, Violet only put out his hand with a cryptic smile. If you want to know something, the best way is to find out yourself. Coming? Manny hesitated, then took his hand, and a wind of raw magic went up inside the sealed room. They came out on a crowded street in the outer city, and Manny spun around, alarmed. What? Where are we? Violet promptly bought her a red hooded cloak and walked her along the street, and pushed an ice cream cone into her hand along the way. Enjoying a little freedom while traveling costs nobody anything, does it, Leary? Manny looked at the cone in her hand, thrown completely. Traveling? Neither she nor Liriana had ever once done this. Almost every year of both their lives had been spent under somebody else's control. They walked through the busy stalls together, watched street performers and played with the small birds, How long had it been since she could smile all the way through, freely, without weighing a single thing? At last, Violet stopped her in front of an old timber building with a sign that read, "The Scriptorium." He explained that anything the Canvarian crown did not control could be found in here, and since the crown treats everything touching magic as forbidden, this was exactly the right place. Inside was a cavern of spiraling shelves. Violet glanced around. Where has the keeper gone? He never leaves that chair. While Manny was looking around, her eye went past the great glass window, and her emerald eyes went wide and her whole body locked. The woman in the dark violet cloak standing outside was her own mother. Manny narrowed her eyes and watched the secret conversation between her mother and the stranger. The man was threatening her. "Listen to me. If this gets out, we are both finished." "I might survive. Your house and your husband certainly will not. If you do not want to end up like your daughter, watch your mouth." Her mother's lips curled into a cruel, proud smile. "To bargain with me as an equal, you seem to have far more to lose than I do. Beyond this body, I have nothing left to lose. The man you call master took my daughter, my rank, and my husband from me. And you would do well to remember, I am the only person alive who can find the Empress." Manny was straining to hear when suddenly, Violet pulled her back from behind and folded her against him. "Quiet. Stand there and they will see you." Manny twisted round and the two outside were gone. Violet was thinking, that man is the Empress's own creature. What is he doing out here? Something bitter about her mother rose in Manny's chest. From the day black magic was pinned on her, every thread to her family had been cut. Should she go home just once? And then her mother's voice came back from years ago. Live like a dead thing. Seeing her standing frozen at the shelves, Violet swept her up like a stuffed bear. "Tell me the truth. You had another reason for bringing me here, didn't you? Do you really think I can find what I need in this mountain of books in a single day?" He opened his hand and produced a necklace with a shining crescent charm. "Here, borrow this. It is a gate sigil. Feed it mana, and you can reach this library whenever you like. 1 trip a day." Manny took it. "Thank you. I will use it carefully." But when she said, "Then please send me back to the palace now," Violet's face fell. "What? Why? It is nowhere near dark." Manny answered evenly, "I cannot keep His Majesty waiting." At the words His Majesty, something in Violet's eyes went dark. "So, you have an appointment." For some reason, I do not care for that at all. And before Manny could react, he snapped his fingers. Magic flared, and she was standing in her own opulent room in the palace. Back from all that noise, Manny exhaled at the sight of the little dragon curled up on the velvet cushion. "I'm home, Amy." "You beat me back?" Aim flicked its tail and made a small pleased noise, insufferably smug about it. Meanwhile, at the residence of Duke Gondif, the mood was very different. The aide sent to investigate came back at a run. "My lord, by the time we reached the dungeon, the dark mage had already killed himself." The Duke stared out the window. A man who fought that hard to escape suddenly takes his own life? Was there pressure on him from somewhere behind? What exactly was he protecting? The next morning, under the sunlit pavilion of the palace, Manny endured a very tense tea with Seth Floss. Tanya watched the two of them from a distance and worried. Honestly, sitting across from Seth Floss was like sitting on a bed of thorns. Manny grumbled inwardly. "If your Majesty has something to say, please just say it." Seth Floss set his cup down without hurry and broke the silence. "How is your sword training coming along?" Manny coughed on nothing and apologized fast. "Your Majesty, training alone without an instructor has real limits." He thought about that, then said something unexpected. "If you wish, I can make time to instruct you myself." Manny declined instantly. "Thank you for the offer, Your Majesty, but I am quite all right. You are very busy, and I should not be a burden. I hear Master Robert is nearly recovered, so I can study theory until his lessons begin." Inside, she was sweating. Spend any more time attached to Seth Floss, and he will work out that she is Manny. She rose and curtsied. "My body is still recovering, so I will take my leave, Your Majesty." He raised a hand to stop her, then changed his mind. "No, never mind." And then he added one more thing. "In that case, tomorrow we continue this conversation." Manny's eyes went wide. "Tomorrow as well?" But she bowed. "Yes, Your Majesty." Walking away from the pavilion, Manny smiled bitterly to herself. What Liriana actually needs from the Emperor is public recognition, not private attention like this. "Your Majesty, You understand that perfectly well, don't you? She had gone only a few paces when his cold voice came from behind her. Wait, Manny Frey? Every muscle in Manny's body locked. Her heart stopped for one full second, and her emerald eyes went round as she turned back. Seth Floss closed his eyes, then slowly opened them, and those red eyes bored into her while his voice stayed perfectly casual. No, I still have a few things to say about your mother. He dismissed every maid, and walked Manny under the shade of the trees while she held a small parasol, wondering what more he could possibly have to say about her. The beauty of the place brought back the memory of a love that had been sweet and then a catastrophe. Some things bloom brilliantly for one season and then vanish without a trace. That is exactly why they become the memories you hold most precious. Seth Floss stopped walking. This is the first thing and the last thing I will ever tell you. Your mana has woken, so there is no avoiding it. Remember what I say. You will never walk the road your mother walked. Do you know why I locked you in that tower? I had to hide you from every pair of eyes in this empire. Because your mother sank into black magic, threw the whole palace into chaos, and took countless lives with her. Looking at the child in front of him, the old pain rose in Seth Floss. Because I was also a man who loved Manny Frey deeply. Manny bowed her head. I will remember your majesty's words. I will do nothing dangerous. And then she lifted her head and smiled. But I have something to say to your majesty as well. I will find the silver light myself. I will investigate it myself, and I will not follow my mother's road. And if I do recover the silver light, I ask your majesty to grant me one wish. Looking at the blaze in that child's eyes, Seth Floss faltered. It was uncanny. For a moment he was looking at Manny herself. He hesitated, then nodded. Very well. From that day onward, Manny used the gate sigil to reach the scriptorium every single day, hunting for any way to call Liriana's soul home. With the scholarship of her last life behind her, she read complex, ancient language texts that ordinary people could barely begin to translate. And after long days buried in old books, Manny uncovered the truth about the stolen Silverlight. The Silverlight is a millennial stone, appearing once in 1,000 years, harder than diamond, carrying the highest protective power there is. But the crucial part is this. The Silverlight has a will of its own, and it is used as the medium for forming a contract with a demon beast. The appearance of the beasts and the theft of the Silverlight were tied together, and tightly. With that much in hand, Manny used the gate to go straight to the shrine of the barrier for her answers. But the moment she arrived, the knight on the gate blocked her. Manny frowned. I cannot go in? Then may I speak with the keeper of the shrine? She was trying her luck. The knight bowed and refused flatly. My apologies, Your Highness. His Majesty has forbidden anyone to set foot inside. And then a voice behind her said, Goodness, what a nuisance. A pretty girl with tea-brown hair came up and curtsied respectfully. Ivina Luen greets Your Highness. It has been a while, Princess Liriana. This is the first time we have met since the special class, isn't it? Manny was curious. Ivina, what brings you to the shrine? Ivina answered, I came as a representative of House Luen. I hope to find some trace of the beasts. But if even a princess cannot get in, I suppose that is that. Manny took a good look at the girl in front of her. Ivina Luen, second daughter of the Border Lord Luen, a house famous for hunting demon beasts and terrifying its enemies. Recognizing a possible ally, Manny made her move. Lady Ivina, would you care to take tea with me? Ivina agreed happily. Over a table piled with cakes, Ivina explained that her father on the border was constantly anxious about the capital's safety, so she wanted to find something that might help. Manny went straight at it. Lady Ivina, do you know anything about the recent business with the beasts? Ivina lowered her voice and gave up a secret. Your Highness knows the Silverlight is called the treasure of the beasts, and that it is used to seal contracts with them? Then did you know this? Anyone who has made a contract with a demon beast is cursed and can never touch the Silverlight. Manny went rigid, which meant that anyone who could not put a hand on the Silverlight had struck a bargain with the beasts. Ivina smiled and went on. In the old days, the border lords used the Silverlight to sentence traitors. The Silverlight has always been the thing that guards Canveria. Leaving the tea table, Manny worked it out fast. The thief could not be hiding the stone inside the palace because Seth Floss's aura would find it. And it could not have left the capital, with every gate under heavy watch. But how do you find a stone that can hide itself in a city that size? And then it came to her. If anyone alive knows where that stone is, it is my mother. At the same hour, in her lavish apartments, a maid reported to Empress Herbia. Your Majesty, she could not enter the shrine, but she is preparing to leave the capital. Empress Herbia smiled, and it was an ugly smile. She snipped a flower off its stem in the garden. Send Malone after her. One does prune the leaves that get in a flower's way. Manny fed manna into the gate sigil Violet had lent her, and appeared instantly at the Count's residence. She looked at him. Shall we go? Violet threw on his cloak and walked out into the street beside her, complaining mildly. So you drag me along without telling me where we are going, and do try not to do anything conspicuous like magic. Manny smiled weakly. I will explain everything in time. Violet's eyes flicked behind them and the corner of his mouth went up. Fine, I will do as the princess wishes. But you have picked up a rather troublesome tale. And with that, Violet threw an arm around Manny's shoulders and pulled her in close, blocking the line of sight neatly. In the middle of the crowd, the man Herbia had sent realized he had been made. Thanks to Violet's quick thinking, the two of them shook him off without difficulty. They took a carriage out of the capital and stopped in front of an old manor, gray and joyless. Manny stared at the house sitting in that dead air, a place that looked as though something could walk out of it at any moment. And it was ringed with ceiling stakes to hold magic out. This was the old seat of House Frey. It had never been a warm home in her last life either, but the ruin of it still hurt to look at. An old servant came out and bowed. I will take you inside. The heavy door swung open. In a dim room, a formidable woman in fine black stood at the window. She turned, and her voice was smooth. I always knew you would come back one day. Liriana, my beloved granddaughter. We have never met, and I knew you at a glance. Those eyes are so like your mother's, and so like mine. Manny looked at her, and something in her ached. She had thought she would never see this woman again. And then Lady Frey's eyes slid past her and hardened. And I see you brought an uninvited guest. Beast. Manny's whole body jerked. A demon beast? What was that supposed to mean? She turned to look at Count Violet. The platinum-haired archmage stayed exactly where he was, arms folded against the wall, smiling calmly. I have genuinely no idea what you mean. You know me? Lady Frey smiled darkly. Of course I do. I know exactly what you are, a demon beast that never learned to wear a man properly. Come here, my dear child. Only I can protect you. Coming with me is far better than traveling with a beast that will betray you sooner or later. Manny stood frozen. A demon beast. Count Violet was a demon beast? Before she could take it in, Lady Frey gave the order. Guards, seize him. Violet sighed, bored. Well, I had hoped to keep that quiet a while longer. My apologies, Princess. With those ceiling stakes blocking magic, I am afraid I will be leaving now. And before Manny could get a syllable out, Violet swept her up and threw them both at the window. The glass burst outward, and he carried her straight into open air. Manny shrieked, "What do you think you are doing?" And in midair, two enormous dragon wings unfolded and blotted out the sky. Violet climbed on those wings and smiled down at her. Well, that is thoroughly ruined. I did not expect it to go this way either. Do you remember? We have flown over the palace together before, Liriana. Manny stared into those violet eyes she knew so well. Ami, you? You are Amy? Violet smiled, and it was mesmerizing. Perhaps it would be more accurate to call you by this name. Manny, sleep well. A sleeping spell rolled over her. Manny went under with one last question stuck in her throat. How does he know my name? When she woke, Manny found herself in the familiar bed in the Emerald Palace. Tanya came in. My lady, when did you get back? That night, hard rain came down over the palace. At the top of the highest tower, a figure in a black cloak stood looking out at nothing. The eternal time of the dragons runs in 10,000 streams and then stops, and only the time of the past can fill it. And out under that night rain, Manny's real body lay sleeping forever in a spotless white dress. Waking in a soft bed, Manny looked around the room, lost. Morning already? Why am I here? She rolled over and startled at Amy curled up asleep right beside her. Tanya came in cheerfully. Lady Liriana! You mean Amy? He has been asleep next to you since last night. Let me fetch today's clothes. The moment Tanya was out the door, Manny threw the blanket back and woke the dragon. Aim, or should I be calling you Count Violet now? Stop pretending to sleep and get up. Aim growled crossly. Manny kept at it. I let it go while I thought you were a lost dragon. But now I know you can speak. So why will you not turn back into that arrogant count? What are you so afraid of telling me? Aim tried to slip past her, and Manny caught it by the tail. The little dragon puffed up, violet magic flickering in its eyes, thoroughly annoyed. Manny softened and looked straight into them. I used to think you were the most precious thing I had. Through all those lonely days in the tower, you were the only ally I had. So now please tell me the truth. Hearing that, Amy folded immediately and settled down obediently. Manny looked at its blank little face and felt lost all over again. This is bizarre. I know who he really is now. So why won't he turn back? He behaves exactly as though he has no idea he is Count Violet. With nothing else to do, Manny stayed beside Amy and waited for the Count to come back on his own. From the day Liriana was formally recognized as a princess, her life became suffocating. Mornings were swordsmanship and dancing back to back. Afternoons were solid with tutors in history and etiquette. And of course, princess or not, most of the nobility still looked at her with contempt. Two young ladies whispered behind her back, "That little snake used black magic again, obviously." How else does Princess Brenna lose to her? She cheated, plainly. And Brenna, who heard every word, turned on them. You two. Stop humiliating me. My swordsmanship was worse than hers. It is that simple. For the sake of our old acquaintance, I will let it go this once. The girls fell over themselves apologizing. Brenna lifted her chin and walked on, having conceded her defeat completely and without excuses. Manny watched Brenna's back until it was gone. Dagon was interrogating her anxiously. You went outside the palace on your own? Do you understand how dangerous that is? Manny smiled. I wasn't alone. Who then? Don't tell me it was Count Violet. Manny nodded. It was. How did you know? Hearing she had been out walking with someone else, Dagon's cheeks puffed with undisguised jealousy. If you wanted to see the capital, I could do it far better than that, Count. I would take you to the royal chef's dessert shop, the finest forge in the city, and... Manny laughed. That sounds wonderful. Let's go together next time. Dagon's whole face lit up. Really? You promise? I swear I will make it the best day Liriana has ever had. Watching him wave at Amy, Manny thought, Dagon. I wonder how you would take it if you knew the truth. Dagon asked her something else. That reminds me, Liriana, how have you been feeling lately? Manny considered it. Now that he mentioned it, running no longer left her gasping the way it used to, and she thought she might even be a little taller. The body was improving, and still something invisible ached in her. Dagon brought up an old memory gently. Liriana, do you remember the first time we met? I was terrified of blood back then. I ran away from a brutal training session, and everyone laughed at me. And you never asked me a single thing. You just quietly took a cloth and cleaned my hands. If you hadn't been there that day, I think I would have given up the sword completely. And Manny remembered. A small Liriana coming home with a stain on her dress. She had scolded the child for not explaining herself. So the bond that actually mattered was Dagon's with Liriana, and never with her. Dagon looked her in the eye and made her a promise. That is why I want to protect Liriana's ordinary days. A child as gentle as you could never have had a wicked mother. Whatever anyone says, I believe you, and I believe your mother too. Whenever you need me, I will be on your side. Thank you, Dagon. And those words woke her up. To have Liriana fully accepted, she had to clear her own name of black magic first, and the key to that was the Silverlight. While she was still thinking, a maid brought in a letter. Manny stared at the red wax seal, that crest, Mother. She opened it and blue light exploded out of the paper. A tiny spirit tumbled out coughing. That paper stinks. I nearly suffocated in there. Where am I? Manny stared. You are? A wind spirit? The spirit pouted. Don't be so rude. My name is Ariel. Manny's emerald eyes gleamed. With a wind spirit helping her, finding a stolen Silverlight was suddenly well within reach. Watching Ariel dart about the room, Manny thought about her mother, Licia Valeria. In her last life, her mother's extraordinary gift for summoning spirits had made her the brightest thing in high society. Every rumor and every scrap of knowledge that made House Frey rich had come from the whispering of spirits. But her mother sending Ariel made no sense at all. When she cast Liriana out, that woman was merciless. Was she really capable of feeling something for a granddaughter? Impossible. Whatever her mother wanted, it was far bigger than that. Her mother wanted the palace itself. Manny leaned close to Ariel. Ariel, learn the smell of the shrine and hold on to it. And she promised herself if her mother meant to use her, then she would use her mother right back. Meanwhile, on a palace balcony, Empress Herbia was tearing into her man Malone. I am deeply disappointed in you. You could not follow one child. Malone bowed. Forgive me, Your Majesty. A tower master intervened to protect the girl, and she uses a transfer gate with real fluency. Herbia's eyes narrowed with suspicion. That child was set to die alone and useless. How does she change this drastically? It is almost as if a different soul had moved into that body. Her mouth curved cruelly. Change of plan. Bring that thing back into the palace. Malone started to talk her out of it, and she cut him off with a look. Must I give an order twice? Malone bowed to the floor and hurried out, and walked off down the dark street. He muttered to himself, why does the Empress care this much about one child? What he did not know was that just behind the wall, Manny was following him. She whispered to the wind spirit, Are you certain it is him? Ariel sniffed and confirmed it. Absolutely. The stink of the shrine is coming right off him. Good, said Manny. Use your power and wipe out any trace of us. Manny trailed Malone deep into a warren of dark alleys. The air here was heavy and wrong. Nothing like an ordinary market street. She told herself to be very careful, and to use the gate and run at the first sign of trouble. And then, right at the worst moment, something crashed loudly behind her. Ariel yelped, Leary, behind you! Manny spun round and froze. Sprawled behind an enormous crate were Lady Evina and her friend Leo, scratched up and flat on the ground. Evina scrambled to explain. Forgive me, Princess Liriana. I never meant to follow you, but Leo said he saw you near here. Leo objected. Don't misunderstand. I only bumped into her by accident. Evina laughed behind her hand. Leo, you said you wanted to apologize to Lady Liriana, didn't you? Leo denied it instantly. Nonsense. When did I ever say that? Manny put a finger to her lips. Quiet, both of you. But it was already too late. A thug reached down and hauled Leo up by the throat. Where do these rats keep crawling out of? Noble brats by the look of them. Never mind. Take the lot and throw them in the cellar. Manny shouted to her two small friends. Aim, Ariel, get Leo out. The thugs gaped. What? This child commands a fairy dragon and a spirit? Ariel wrinkled its nose and complained. That beast stink is disgusting. I can't use my power in this. Evina's face went hard. If you hate the smell, then blow it away. Ariel beat its wings and a furious gale ripped through the alley. Leo, still dangling from the thug's fist, howled. Hey, I'm getting blown away with them. The tornado flattened every man there. And then Malone stepped out of the shadows and cut Ariel's wind clean in half with his sword. Manny stared. He cut through magic with a blade. Malone raised the sword and made it plain. The little excursion ends here, children. Move aside or choose to die. Manny stepped in front of Leo, and her eyes went flat. You are the man who has been following me. Malone smiled coldly. This time you walk to me on your own 2 feet. Manny watched him carefully. Your being here proves there is something here you cannot afford to lose, doesn't it? Killing intent flickered in Malone's eyes. In that case, you have chosen death yourself. And at that, Leo threw himself forward with his sword up. You think we'll go quietly? He never touched Malone's coat. A single vicious kick put him on the ground. Evina clapped a hand over her mouth. Malone sneered. Nothing but clumsy little swings. Manny was finished hesitating. She raised her hand, and brilliant golden mana bloomed across her palm. Is this clumsy enough for you? Malone flinched hard. What? That is high-order magic. How can a child this small possibly? In the middle of that blaze, Manny's emerald eyes carried the crushing presence of the archmage she had been in another life. A grown man bullying children, how pathetic. Is that what your master taught you? The assassin faltered. He took a step back, set his teeth and raised the blade. I have no idea what you are talking about, girl. But someone who commands both spirits and high-order magic cannot be dismissed as a child. And Malone came at her. And in that instant, her own childhood came back. Her mother locking her in a dark room. In that lonely corner, magic had been the only light, and the only companion she had. Those years of imprisonment were the years she honed her gift to its terrible edge. Manny raised 2 magic circles at once. Malone recoiled. What? A double cast? How can a child do that? Manny's voice rang out. Ariel, support me. A cyclone wrapped in fire swallowed Malone whole inside the circle. He fought his way clear and cut the flames apart. But when he got out, Manny had vanished without a trace. He roared, "Where did she go?" Manny was already running to Ivina and Leo, pouring mana into the gate. "Ivina, help Leo. We have to get out now." "I am opening the gate. Both of you go through first," Ivina asked, worried. "And what about you, Princess Liriana?" "I am right behind you. Go." She saw them both safely through. And as she moved to follow, Malone's shadow cut off the way. He smiled, and it was a cruel smile, and drove her back into a room that was already burning. And right then, Ariel circled a wooden box sealed with a red gem, sitting in the middle of the fire, and shouted, "Liriana, the smell of the shrine is pouring off that box." Manny stared. "Then the silver light is inside it?" But before she could reach it, Malone snatched the box up. He stood in the flames and looked at her with contempt. How stupid. If you had stayed quiet and patient the way you were in that tower, you would not be ending like this. "I have no intention of taking your life, but shutting your mouth has become necessary, Princess." And at the very edge of it, Leo came flying in from behind and slammed the assassin onto the floor. The box went out of his hands and rolled across the boards. Malone bellowed, "Useless little brat." Hurt as he was, Leo held on with everything he had. "I am not coward enough to run out alone." But the assassin was far too strong. One savage kick threw Leo into a stack of crates. Seeing Malone reach for the box again, Manny shouted, "Leo, shut your eyes!" The gate sigil at her throat detonated in blinding white light and left the assassin completely blind. AIM opened its mouth in the same instant and poured out an enormous gout of fire, straight into Malone. The blast threw him into the wall, and the wooden box hit stone and split apart. And out of the splinters, a gem trailing pink-violet light rose slowly into the air. Manny and Leo stared. It was the silver light. Leo's jaw dropped. "That? The silver light is that tiny thing?" Ariel shrieked. "No question about it. Grab it now!" But the moment Manny reached for it, the silver light flared and vanished into the air without a trace. Freed from its sealed box, the stone had simply hidden itself. And before she could recover, Malone dragged himself out of the wreckage, burned across his whole body and his face gone wrong. Leo cried out, half laughing and half sobbing. "That thing isn't a man anymore," Manny snapped. "Leo, this is bad. Get to the gate." The assassin lost his mind entirely. Black magic exploded off him in every direction and he howled, "Magic never suited me. But today, every one of you disappears here." And on the very edge of that, a cold voice came down from above, carrying real weight. "The one disappearing here is you." A blade wrapped in golden aura tore the air in half and cut the whole surge of black magic to pieces. The dust cleared, and Seth Floss stood between Manny and the assassin with his sword blazing. Leo yelped, "Why is His Majesty here?" Malone set his teeth and fought. But against Seth Floss, he was thrown down onto the floor in seconds. Seth Floss leveled the point at him, and the cold coming off it was frightening. "How dare you? You deliberately harmed the blood of this house. Offer up your heart and pay for it." Seeing him about to finish it, Manny threw herself at his coat and shouted, "No, Your Majesty." He frowned down at her. "What are you doing? Step back and do not interfere." This man tried to take Liriana's life. She did not want to spare him either, but Manny looked up with those steady green eyes. This man may be the one who stole the silver light that shields the palace. We have to take him alive to pull out whatever is standing behind all of this. Seth Floss was unmoved. Rebels and practitioners of black magic are executed on the spot under Canvarian law. Do you have any idea how dangerous such a man becomes when he is cornered? Manny did not give ground. If they are dangerous, that is all the more reason to take the one behind them alive. Let this slip and they cause worse or destroy more innocent people. While they argued, Malone twitched and started to move. Seeing it, Seth Floss's lip curled. "Idiot." He swung the blade, and a golden ceiling light slammed into Malone and pinned him where he lay. Seth Floss gave the order flatly. "When the guard arrives, take him to the dungeons at once." Leo watched, awestruck. That is His Majesty for you. Terrifying. And at that exact moment, the black magic brand on Seth Floss's stomach flared and bled through his white shirt. He staggered and nearly went down. Manny ran to him. "Your Majesty, that is a great deal of blood. Are you wounded?" He steadied himself. "There is no need to worry. It is an old wound. But lately the pain has grown worse. Injuries from black magic do not close easily. Manny stood staring at him. A wound from black magic? When on earth did Seth Floss take a thing like that? With the fight over, he gave his orders coldly. I will find the Silverlight. All of you get out of here. Manny hesitated. But your majesty. And just then, Amy dropped out of the sky above them. And in its mouth was something throwing off a brilliant light. Seth Floss, Leo, and Manny all stopped moving at once. What Amy was carrying was the silver light that had vanished. Manny brightened and put out her hand. Amy, will you give that to me? And the moment she reached out, Amy did a lazy roll in the air and flapped straight up into the night sky. Leo yelled, It's running off, why didn't you call it back? Manny laughed weakly. Well, aim comes and goes exactly as it pleases. Seth Floss rubbed his forehead, exhausted. Back to the palace first. That night at the Emerald Palace, Manny sat in a hot bath and stewed. His Majesty told me to do nothing dangerous. We discuss it tomorrow. And meanwhile, that idiot dragon has flown off with the silver light in its mouth. Where am I supposed to look? Afterwards, she walked out to look at the night sky. And while she stood there, a familiar voice said, You do not need to look for it. Manny's head came up, and there was Count Violet, leaning against a stone pillar in the moonlight, smiling. Good evening, Princess. It has been a while, hasn't it? Manny's face darkened. She marched straight up and took him by the collar. Perfect! I have a great many questions for you. Talk. You really are a demon beast, aren't you? And where is the real Liriana? Violet smiled thinly. First, put your mana down. I will answer what I can, one at a time. To be precise, I am not a demon beast. Demon beast is a name your kind invented, Manny snapped. I do not care what you are called. You are the one who put me into Liriana's body, aren't you? Violet looked away. I cannot answer that question. Manny pressed. Then Liriana? Where is Liriana's soul? He answered gently again. I cannot answer that one either. Manny's temper went. Violet, you are truly... And then the violet in his eyes went dark and completely serious. But I will tell you one thing. On the day the Emperor betrayed you, somebody summoned me here. What, somebody summoned you? Who? Manny fired the questions at him, and Violet waved them off. That is enough questions. It is past your bedtime, Princess. I am leaving. Seeing him about to vanish, Manny lunged and caught a fistful of his cloak. Wait. You have not properly answered a single thing. I am not losing you again. The transfer magic caught them both and threw them across space, and Manny landed hard on the ground. She looked up, and her eyes went wide. Mountains of gold coin rose all around her, heaped with jewels. Where is this? A treasury? No, a dragon's hoard. And then her eyes stopped at the top of the pile. Sitting there in the gold was the stolen silver light. The silver light? Why is it here? Did Amy bring it back here? Manny reached out for the stone without thinking, and Violet shouted from behind her, Do not touch that. Too late. The instant her fingers met the silver light, a bolt of deep violet-black magic tore straight through her body. Somebody's voice surfaced in her memory. Being with you made me happy. I have no regrets. All of this was entirely because... And then a frightened voice was calling her. Wake up, Manny Frey. Manny's eyes flew open and she came up gasping. She was locked tight in Violet's arms. He let out a breath. God, you're awake? A flood of strange memories had gone through her head, but the far more important thing was this. She could not touch the silver light. And by what Evina had told her, only those who had made a contract with a demon beast were cursed and could not touch it. What is happening? Had she or this body of Liriana's made a contract with a beast? Violet set her gently on her feet and his eyes lowered. Go back now. This is not a place for you. No. Do you know how long I have spent hunting for Liriana's soul? And you know everything and you will not give me one word. You stood right beside me and let me trust you. Do you find this funny? Manny's voice broke on it. Violet went still, and the violet in his eyes softened into something painful. That is a misunderstanding. When I take Amy's shape, my will is only a young dragon's, with no more understanding than a child. But there are circumstances I cannot get around. If I tell you this, the time we have left grows shorter. Liriana's body carries a bloodline curse. Until that curse is broken, you cannot bring her soul back. I am not asking you to trust me. But for your own sake, She never heard the end of it. Manny was already back in her own room. She sat there working it through. She cannot return until the curse is broken. which means that if the bloodline curse is broken, Liriana's soul can come back. To get at the truth, Manny disguised herself and slipped down into the palace dungeons where Malone was chained. She put the jailer soundly to sleep with magic, and stood at the bars without any ceremony. Hello again. I am your interrogator. I will not waste time on circles. The Empress is the one behind you, isn't she? Malone laughed at her. What a sweet, naive little princess. All of it was my own doing. The Empress has nothing to do with any of it. Manny said 4 quiet words. The bloodline curse. Malone stopped dead, and every drop of blood left his face. What? How could you? Manny called calmly. Come out, Ariel. The wind spirit blazed into being. I just need to teach this one a lesson, yes? Manny nodded. Don't overdo it the way my grandmother did last time. It would be inconvenient if he died. Malone's screaming echoed a long way through the dungeon. Out of the dungeon, Manny gave her orders immediately. Tanya, have a carriage ready. I am going to the audience chamber. And send this letter to Duke Gondif as an urgent message. Tanya hurried away, and Manny looked toward Empress Herbia's palace. That woman had never once shown a real feeling. Not when she learned of the pregnancy years ago, and not when her own daughter was beaten in the arena. So to catch the Empress, there was only one thing left to do. Kick over the hive. Right then, a knight came and bowed. Your Highness, His Majesty summons you. Manny curtsied low before the throne. Princess Liriana greets the sun and the moon of Canveria. Seth Floss looked down at her coldly. What matter brings you into a formal report session in person? If it is private, a letter would do. Every time she stood in front of the man who had killed her with his own hand, something twisted in Manny's chest. But she knew this was the only road that led anywhere for her daughter. She walked up the red carpet and presented her petition before the entire assembled court. I submit a petition to His Majesty the Emperor. I request that the black magic case at the Emerald Palace be reopened. The case that took my mother's life. The court reeled. Empress Herbia's eyes went dark. Seth Floss's hand closed on the arm of the throne. His red eyes went cold. Before you ask that, do you understand that I am the one who took your mother's life? Manny lifted her chin and answered evenly, I understand it perfectly, Your Majesty. An old conservative minister barked out, Insolence. Princess or not, this goes far beyond the line. Even if His Majesty overturns the verdict, what does Canveria gain from it? Manny came back at him without a tremor. The attack of the demon beasts, the theft of the Silverlight, one incident after another. Do you intend to close your eyes to all of it? My mother died, and the shadow of black magic has gone right on covering this royal house. Empress Herbia's mouth curled. Oh dear, is she suggesting the Empire punished an innocent woman? Your Majesty, this behavior calls for severe correction. But Seth Floss said nothing at all. Manny spoke coolly. As for the details, the Duke will explain them. And Duke Canepa Gondif strode into the hall. Your Majesty. Manny allowed herself a small smile. I knew you would come once you had my letter. My Lord Duke, House Gondif commands the knights and has always been absolutely loyal to the crown. And loyalty carries further than any single fact. Duke Gondif presented a tray and spoke clearly. Your Majesty, look at these. This is the mana crystal carried by the dark mage who attacked my son and Princess Liriana's friend. This red mana stone is a stillness ruby, a rare specialty of the Kingdom of Hisha. And this second stone is the one used by the thief who tried to take the Silverlight. Both are stillness rubies. The Duke laid it out. The recent incidents are not coincidences. They all come from the same source. If a black magic faction still exists inside this palace, then the Emerald Palace case must be investigated again. The court broke into agitated whispering. Empress Herbia came down from the dais wearing pity like a costume. How sad. Are you still a prisoner of the past, Liriana? But before His Majesty grants your request, there is one thing you will have to prove yourself. You make a great show of opposing black magic. But have you never made a contract with a demon beast? The whole hall recoiled. Seth Floss's voice dropped and the pressure filled the chamber. Empress Herbia, what are you saying? Answer very carefully. An old minister stepped in to report. Your Majesty, we speak of the fairy dragon that follows Princess Liriana. How could a fairy dragon wield elemental magic that freely? That is unquestionably a young demon beast. Seth Floss struck the throne. Enough. You do not insult royal blood on nothing but conjecture. But Empress Herbia had come prepared. She raised the holy scepter of House Hisha, and a jewel at its head burned with light. This scepter was passed to me to channel divine power, and the stone set in its heart is a silver light. As your majesty knows, anyone contracted to a demon beast can never touch a silver light. Manny went cold. The empress could touch it, which meant Herbia was not the one contracted to the beasts. Empress Herbia leveled the scepter at Manny and smiled in triumph. Now your majesty may see for himself whether Princess Liriana is truly innocent and worthy of royal blood. And at that exact moment, Dagon shoved past the door guards and burst into the chamber and looked up. He froze at the sight of it. Empress Herbia stood smiling in triumph, holding the silver light scepter out in front of Seth Floss. Come, your majesty, see for yourself whether Princess Liriana is innocent and worthy of the blood she claims. Manny's mind tore itself apart. This is very bad. At Violet's hoard, with no contract of any kind, the silver light had struck her anyway. Touch it here, and the secret comes out in front of everyone. Reading her hesitation, Herbia sneered. Oh dear, what a distrustful look. Don't worry, the silver light does not lie. Manny found a step backward fast, but there is no guarantee Her Majesty's holy relic is entirely intact. The nobles hissed. How dare she question the Empress's own relic? Manny straightened her back and announced it clearly. I do not refuse the test. However, I require that it be conducted before the church, the knights, and the assembled nobility, in the proper form the law of this palace prescribes. Empress Herbia came forward and raised her voice. How very strange. You demand priests and knights, and yet you cannot answer the simplest question standing right here. The witch Manny Frey left a scar on His Majesty's body that will never fade. If her daughter is to be a princess, should she not prove she is different from her mother? Here and now, the nobles piled in behind her. The Empress is entirely right. Your Majesty, think of the safety of this palace. Manny looked at that woman with hatred. She was strangling Liriana's standing beautifully, even though the girl's royal blood was beyond any dispute. She looked up at Seth Floss. Your Majesty, before you are an emperor, please make this choice as a father. Father. Seth Floss's voice cracked across the hall. Silence. Every voice died at once. He turned to Manny and said the coldest thing he could have said. Liriana, do as the Empress asks. Manny went hollow, and Dagon threw himself in front of her and shouted without caring what it cost him. Liriana has done nothing wrong. What more does she have to prove? Why is Liriana always the one who has to bleed? Duke Gondef moved fast to hold his son back. Manny touched Dagon's hand gently. Her eyes were sad and strangely calm. Dagon, I'm all right. She bowed her head and accepted. I obey your Majesty's command. Empress Herbia's mouth curved, and she laid a green magic circle down under Manny's feet. Very good. To confirm the relic is genuine, I will cast this circle. Now, put out your hand. Manny set her teeth and reached her small hand out to the silver light scepter. And she prayed silently. I cannot run from this. But I believe in the purity of Liriana's own magic. And the instant she touched the stone, a deep violet bolt of black magic exploded out of it. The whole chamber recoiled in horror. Impossible. The silver light is reacting. Is she truly contracted to a demon beast? Seth Floss came out of the throne. No. That is not what this is. This is... And right then, the silver light in the scepter shattered into fragments and threw out a blinding wave of light. The court stared, appalled. The silver light. It broke? At the same moment, the violent purple magic swallowed Manny whole and locked her body solid. I can't move. And Manny's awareness sank away into an endless black. In that darkness, the shape of the great white dragon rose in front of her. An ancient voice rolled through the space. So it has come to this at last. My silver light, wake. Manny's eyes snapped open. She was lying in an opulent room. She touched her own long, soft hair and her own face, dazed. Where is this? What just happened? She crossed to the tall mirror and stopped breathing at the reflection in it. Elegant white shoulders. The full-grown beauty she had once been. This was her own real body from her last life. When the silver light shattered and Liriana went down, Dagon lunged for her. But Seth Floss caught the child first and gathered her in. Empress Herbia seized the moment and raised her voice in accusation. Your Majesty, none of this is normal. The silver light shattering is unquestionably connected to that child. There must be a demon beast at her side. Look at the reaction we all just saw. For the safety of this empire, The princess must be isolated immediately. Seth Floss roared, "Bring the physician and the priest here now." A minister joined in. "Your Majesty, you should stand well back from the princess." Seth Floss held Liriana tighter and stared the Empress down. "Be silent. She is safer in my own arms." What just happened was not a rejection. It was a surge of mana beyond what she can hold. Surely the Empress can tell the difference. Or does she mean to insult me deliberately? Exposed to her face by the Emperor, Empress Herbia had no option but to bow. "I obey your Majesty. I spoke only out of concern for the safety of the Empire." Seth Floss left one line behind him as he carried Liriana out. Was it not the Empress herself who called for the test? "I gave the child a chance to prove herself. I had no intention of putting her in danger. We will discuss this later." Watching him walk away with Liriana in his arms, Empress Herbia ground her teeth. "Do not forget, your Majesty. That witch's daughter will never be your successor." At that same hour, Manny woke dazed and touched her own face and her own grown body in disbelief. What just happened? Am I still alive? This is my real body, isn't it? Did Seth Floss never actually kill me? A familiar voice answered quietly, "It is the dragon's contract that did it." Manny startled. "Violet." She fired the questions out. "A contract? What are you talking about?" "No. More importantly, where is Liriana? Is Liriana alive? Has her soul come back?" Violet looked at her gently and with great weight. "I told you already. Until the bloodline curse on Liriana's body is broken, you cannot have her soul back. The Silverlight, the treasure of the beasts, the sacred medium of the dragon's contract. It is where every contract begins and where every contract ends. And because you have touched the Silverlight, your true body, which the contract preserved, can no longer remain long in the human world. We call it the beginning of dragon time. If you leave the human world before Liriana's curse is lifted, her body stays empty of any soul and sleeps forever." Violet's explanation came down on Manny like a falling roof. She got the words out. Do you know what you are saying? You took Liriana's soul, didn't you? Why? Why would you do that?" Violet looked at her and nodded once. "Yes, I did." Manny could not speak. "I cannot understand this at all. From a demon beast like you?" Violet took her hand gently, and the violet in his eyes was full of grief. "Tomorrow you go back into Liriana's body. Until then, rest here in my castle." Standing on the balcony of that towering castle, Manny looked out a long way. She thought about the piece of gold she had dug out of Malone. Only the aster flower can break a bloodline curse. And the circle the Empress had cast years ago was the cruel working that turned her into a witch and hung the curse on Liriana from the hour she was born. Manny's eyes lit with something hard. To take on that woman, Liriana needed allies, and many of them. The moment she was back, she would gather the strongest force she could for her daughter, and the two of them would tear the Empress down together. Meanwhile, under moonlight in the family graveyard, Lady Frey listened to the Wind Spirit aerial report. That's right. That is exactly how it happened. A satisfied smile touched the corner of Lady Frey's mouth, and she said it very quietly. What a cruel and beautiful fate. The one who loves her daughter more than anyone alive. Forever swearing the girl will never become what her mother became, and living now by taking her own daughter's body to do it. I promise you, my dear, I will deliver every last measure of what is owed to that Empress, the woman who stole your life. The scandal of a shattered holy relic ran into every corner of the palace, and the servants whispered, "Have you heard? They say Her Majesty's holy relic broke apart." Nonsense, a holy relic does not break that easily, unless something is wrong with the Empress's divine power. Princess Brenna happened past and lost her temper completely. She stormed into Empress Herbia's rooms to report it. "Mother, you must hear what the servants are saying about you. I will not let this pass again. I am going to my father about it this instant." Empress Herbia answered without hurrying. "That will do, my dear. Foolish rumors blow away on the wind. And tell me, who is it that holds the barrier over this empire right now?" "It is me, your mother." "And who is the only lawful heir of Canveria?" Brenna put a hand to her chest and her eyes shone with pride. "I am Brenna of Canveria." Empress Herbia smiled, satisfied. "Good, you have not forgotten. The crown princess selection proceeds exactly as planned. That child Liriana will have her chance to take part as a princess as well. Do not worry, your mother, the empress of this empire, will make you the only son Canveria has. Meanwhile, in her own room, Liriana lay unconscious in a great bed. When the healer had finished pouring divine power into the child, Seth Floss waved him out. He sat on the edge of the bed and looked at his sleeping daughter's face without saying anything. Her petition to reopen the Emerald Palace case kept turning over in his mind. Years before, the old emperor, Seth Floss's father, had died of a curse laid by black magic out of the beasts. The prophecy of the seers was coming true piece by piece. The beasts and their black magic were the greatest threat this empire faced. For the empire, he had made himself into something else. To carry the weight of the crown, he had accepted a political marriage with the Holy House of Herbia, and he had let go of the one woman he loved most, Manny Frey. And after trading away everything he valued, what exactly had he received in return? Seth Floss looked down in pain at the small girl sleeping peacefully in front of him. Elsewhere, Manny studied herself in the mirror, dazed. Is this body truly mine? The wound Seth Floss's blade had made that day had not even left a scar. And then something rapped at the window, and there was Aim hanging off the frame outside. Manny hurried to let it in. Aim shot into the room and flopped over dramatically on the bed. Manny half laughed. So you have stopped caring about me entirely? Watching the little dragon sleep, she thought about it. Violet said that when he takes Aim's shape, his own will is not present. There was so much she wanted to ask, and while she was still turning it over, sleep took her without warning. When she jerked awake, she froze, right beside her on the bed. Violet lay on his side in human form. Manny bolted upright. Violet, he nearly stopped her heart. Why is he asleep here? And then Violet opened his eyes, winked at her, and teased, Keep it down, you are standing on my tail. Manny looked down and found herself standing squarely on a dragon's tail poking out from under his cloak. She flushed and stepped back, then went straight to business. Give it back to me now. Violet blinked at her. Give what back? The silver light. I saw everything the last time you moved me. You have it hidden somewhere in this castle, don't you? Violet thought about it, then nodded briskly. All right. Manny stared. What? As easily as that? But the Count propped his chin on his hand and produced a smile of pure mischief. In exchange, I have one condition. Manny frowned. A condition? Violet answered easily. That's right. She pushed back. You are the one who took the silver light without asking anybody, and now you. Violet cut across her. With reckless methods like yours, how long do you imagine you can protect Liriana? Manny looked at him levelly. What are you trying to say? Without another word, Violet caught her by the wrist. A circle exploded around them and left a violet magic cord binding his wrist to hers. Violet smiled wicked. Controlling mana demands a far higher standard than that. The condition is very simple. This is a bracelet carrying the curse of the ancient dragons, and it will never break unless its condition is met. While you wear it, you will not be able to control mana easily, and the only way to break it is to force your own mana into it. Break this cord, and I will give the silver light back to you. Manny looked at the cord binding the two of them and gave up. Was it strictly necessary to tie your own wrist to it as well? And before she could finish, Violet turned back into the little dragon. Manny yelped. What? Why would you turn into Amy right now? And at that exact moment, water came surging up into the room, and she grabbed the little dragon and shook it. It's up to here already. Amy, take this cord off or tell me the way out. Terrified by the racing current. Aim opened its mouth to blast something. Manny stopped it in panic. Don't. If you use that kind of magic now, both of us will. In that freezing water, Manny did not let go. She pulled Amy in close and soothed the frightened little dragon. You're scared, aren't you, Amy? Waking up suddenly and finding yourself in this. It's all right, I'm here. Just as you protected Liriana, I will protect you. Sinking in the water, something steady lit up in Manny. He was right. Violet was right. If she wanted to protect Liriana, she had to beat this test. In the churning water, Manny remembered what Violet had told her. Wearing this, you cannot control mana easily, and the cruel joke is that the only way to break it is to force your own mana in. Difficult does not mean impossible. She shut her eyes and reached for the feeling of mana bursting from her fingertips, the way it had when she touched the silver light. Brilliant power erupted out of her, and the water simply vanished. She dropped onto a dry floor, gasping. I did it. She looked down at her wrist, and the violet cord was gone, turned into a single gleaming mana crystal sitting in her palm. The bracelet became a mana crystal. Before she could make sense of it, blinding light closed over her, and Manny's vision faded to black. When she opened her eyes again, she was back inside Liriana's body, in the great bed in the palace. Dagon sat on the edge of it and cried out with joy. "Liriana, you're awake?" Manny blinked at him. Dagon fussed over her. "Liriana, you have slept for an entire day. How does your body feel?" "The priest said you were fine, but I was still frightened." Manny nodded to calm him. "I'm fine. Nothing hurts anywhere." She closed her fist and realized with a jolt that the violet mana crystal was still sitting in Liriana's small palm. So none of it had been a dream at all. And right then came the familiar cry of Amy. At that same hour, at the Royal Council, the air was wound tight. The ministers begged Seth Floss for an answer. "Without the Silverlight, we cannot hold the Crown Princess selection at all. Since the founding of Canveria, there has been no worse omen than this." Seth Floss sat above them in silence, his face dark. And as the council sank into deadlock, the great doors swung open. Manny walked in carrying Amy, and every minister stared. Her voice went through the chamber like a blast. "I have recovered it." In her arms, the little dragon sat holding the Silverlight in its mouth, blazing with light. The court gasped. "The Silverlight? And is that creature a demon beast?" Seth Floss raised a hand for silence. He came down to her and asked, "Are you hurt anywhere?" Manny answered calmly, "I am not, Your Majesty. Thank you for calling the priest for me." A minister examined the stone and confirmed it. "Your Majesty, this is the Silverlight." Seth Floss nodded. "Then the Crown Princess selection can proceed. And one more thing. I promised you a wish if you recovered the Silverlight. Did I not?" Manny did not waste a golden opportunity. She said it clearly. "You did, Your Majesty. I ask permission to open a salon. I wish to invite the children of the noble houses to my palace regularly." Seth Floss frowned. "A salon? When you are grown, you may hold as many parties as you like. Do you not want jewels or gemstones?" Manny answered firmly, "Those belong to a distant future. What I need is a place to build relationships now, and for that, Your Majesty's permission is essential." Seth Floss considered it, then nodded. "Very well, do as you wish." Manny curtsied. "Thank you, Your Majesty." And she allowed herself one private moment of satisfaction. This permission was worth more than every jewel and every gown in that palace. With the Emperor quietly behind her, this was the perfect run-up to gathering Liriana a faction before the Crown Princess selection. 1 week before the salon opened. In a palace corridor, Leo stood rehearsing an apology to himself and making a mess of it. "I sincerely apologize." "No." "That sounds fake, Your Highness. I'm sorry, that's even worse." Evina Lewin stood behind him, laughing quietly. "I have been watching you mutter at that door for a while now, Leo. In any case, a salon hosted by the princess will be good experience for high society. I simply did not expect you to be invited too." Leo jumped and went red. And what is that supposed to mean? And at that, Sebastian Villeneuve, son of the Chancellor, spoke from his chair in a drawl. "I agree with that. I am rather curious what sort of salon Princess Liriana intends to run, though I expect very little from any gathering that includes Leo." Evina spoke up. "You just insulted Princess Liriana. Do you understand that, Seba?" Sebastian lifted his chin. "And what of it? The position of Crown Princess goes to Brenna regardless. Princess Liriana does not even qualify to enter the selection." Leo flew at him and grabbed his collar. "Shut your mouth if you know nothing. How can you know before the day comes?" Sebastian sneered. "You are the ignorant one. To enter the Crown Princess selection, a princess must carry the seals of the 3 great houses currently seated in government." Manny walked in smoothly. "Am I wrong, Sebastian?" Faced with her, Sebastian kept his arrogance exactly where it was. Manny thought it through. It was true. The selection required the seals of the 3 great houses. And with everyone treating Brenna as the future Crown Princess, nobody was going to hand a seal to Liriana easily. Even so, this boy's attitude genuinely deserved a lesson. Manny turned to the others. "Leo, Evina, let's go. Sebastian, you may leave." Sebastian waved a hand, insolent. Yes, I am extremely busy anyway," she said lightly. "What salon does not screen its guest list?" Manny paused and glanced back with a smile, especially one the Emperor is personally supporting. Sebastian frowned. "Screening the guests? I never intended to come in the first place." Manny hummed. What a shame. I had planned to speak at this first salon about the matter His Majesty let slip to me. The one your father, the Chancellor, has just quietly opened a budget line for. Sebastian jolted. What? Manny widened her eyes. Oh, it seems your father has not shared anything that important with you. Manny knew exactly what she was doing. As the Chancellor's son, Sebastian's whole pride was his family's information network. The higher a man sits, the more terrified he is of being left behind. That is the crack. Sebastian turned around faster than anyone had ever seen him turn. He bowed to Liriana with immaculate, desperate courtesy. Princess Liriana, in truth, I was blind to the reach of your vision a moment ago. As heir of the Chancellor's house, I would like to stand at your side and support you. Please permit me to attend your salon. Manny smiled at him sweetly. No. Leo and Avina choked on their laughter. Serves you right, Sebastian. Then Manny added, if you want an invitation, I want you to arrange a private meeting between myself and your father, Chancellor Tyrone Villeneuve. Sebastian's lip curled. Ha! So that was the real target all along. And before long, Chancellor Tyrone Villeneuve was bowing low to receive Manny in person. He greeted her warmly. Welcome, Your Highness. You honor this house. Had you sent word ahead, I would have received you properly. Sebastian stood behind them, watching Manny, and unease crawled through him. What is she really, this Princess Liriana? And what is she about to do to all of us?